Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tales from the Backlog, a gaming deep dive podcast. I am your host, as always, Dave Jackson, he, him.
And I'm Flora Merigold, she, her.
And today's game is Many Nights a Whisper. But before we get into that, a few quick things. If this is your first time here on the show, thank you for stopping by. If you're worried about spoilers for Many Nights a Whisper, have no fear. We always save spoilers for a dedicated spoiler section at the end of the episode. You can check down in the show notes for a timestamp for when spoilers begin. Until that point, you're safe. And if you like the show, please consider supporting it in the many ways that you can. Lots of free ways to do that. You can hit like and comment if you're here on YouTube. If you're on the podcast apps, you can leave a rating and review. You can share the episode with a friend, maybe one who played this game, or maybe if you're trying to convince them to. Send some people the episode. So all of those are helpful. And if you want to support monetarily, you can do that at patreon.com/realdavejackson. So with that being said, the voice you heard at the top of the show with me is a returning friend of the show, Flora Merigold. If you don't know her, she is one of the hosts of Left Behind Game Club podcast and writer and critic over at Epilogue Gaming. And she's deadly accurate with a slingshot. Flora, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Dreamer Dave, for accepting my braid and giving me a guest appearance on the show.
It's great to have you back. Many-time guest on the show now. It's enough where all of the episodes that you've been here for don't immediately come to mind, but I think The Last of Us Part 2 is one of the more popular ones that you were the guest on. I think that's a really good listen if people are looking for more Flora on Tales from the Backlog. So we have a super different game from The Last of Us Part 2 today. Good to have you on board for it.
Yeah, thank you.
So today's game, like we said, it is Many Nights a Whisper, which is a narrative adventure archery game developed by Selkie Harbour and Deconstructeam, and it was published by Deconstructeam for PC in 2025. We have some quick credits for the top of the show. The director and primary writer on the game is Jordi De Paco. Designer and programmer was Guillermo Ferrando, and artists Manon Gevers, Marina Gonzalez, and Paula Fingerspit Ruiz. And Fingerspit also credited with the music for Many Nights a Whisper. So, elevator pitch time. If people don't know what this game is, we have some quick pitches for you. I say, do you want to feel real pressure and stakes in a 90-minute video game? That's my pitch. Flora, what would you say?
I think this is a game for contemplative pyromaniacs.
The best kind of pyromaniac, maybe?
Maybe a pro-social kind in this instance.
Right. Yeah. You're still all about fire and burning stuff, but you're at least thinking about it while you're doing it. That's good. I've played this on a PC. I've played it 2 times now. It took me an hour and a half roughly each time to get through the game. This isn't really a game that I think people are going to spend a wildly different amount of time with, unless you're just like, you can't get enough practice time. But an hour and a half, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I believe I clocked in at 87 minutes.
Yeah, there we go. So as we always do at the beginning of the show, we talk about our personal histories with the game in question. Many Nights a Whisper, it started to kind of bubble up toward Game of the Year time at the end of 2025. More people started to talk about this, but we both played this before that time. So this is a small team. It's a small game. It's a short game. It's a very cheap game. What was it that brought you to Many Nights a Whisper?
I hadn't heard of Many Nights a Whisper until our mutual friend reached out, Jake from the Pre-Order Bonus podcast,
Yeah.
and suggested that I pick this game up. It was incredibly inexpensive. I didn't have any expectations going in. I didn't watch a trailer for it or really peruse the screenshots on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
I went in without expectation, and in some ways, I think that was a blessing for my experience and impressions of the game. There's some level at which I think indie games are kind of a dice roll of whether or not they're going to be deep with their writing and their content. And I was so enraptured by the writing in this game that I unexpectedly just finished it in one sitting.
Yeah. I was kind of the same. I'd never heard of this before. And the thing that brought me to it was over in the Gaming in the Wild Discord server. They run a monthly short games game club. They call it the single sitting social. I think like maximum 2 hours long games. And this was one of the monthly games. And I participate in there when I can. I say when I can. They're all really short games. I probably could all the time, but I try to when I have the mental bandwidth for it. That's the way I'll describe it. And so I was like, Many Nights of Whisper, never heard of this. And then I checked and it's $3 full price on Steam. So I was like, all right, fuck it, let's go. Let's give it a try. And like kind of like you, I was as soon as the game started, as soon as it told me the premise for it, I was all in on it. And it really never let go of my attention through the whole, hour and a half runtime. I was like locked the fuck in on this game. Um, the the premise of it, which is that you are controlling this character called the Dreamer, who eventually you're going to have one shot in this ritual with your slingshot, and if you make the shot, think good things happen, and if you miss it, bad things happen. I was immediately sold on this, and so starts the game, sell me the stakes. Give me some really good tension between gameplay and story stuff, and then you have a really momentous ending. It's an hour and a half long, and it's probably been roughly a year since I played it, and for the first time, and I have not really stopped thinking about it since then. So this is really really good.
One small amendment to your characterization of the premise in this game.
Yes,
If you miss the shot, I wouldn't say it's necessarily that bad things happen. It's
right.
that the things you were intending to be good that would happen are canceled out
Yeah.
and
Oh, they'll
nullified.
never happen. Yes.
Yes. So,
Right.
I mean, like, I guess that's a way of saying bad things happen, but I
Right.
don't know if that's how I would have pinpointed it exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is more accurate for sure. It's interesting you say like with indie games, there's always a kind of a toss up whether the writing is going to be deep and effective. I just kind of feel like that for, any video game that's, heavy on story. It's not a given that I'm going to be totally wrapped up and sold on the stakes of the story. A lot of video game stories, like, they're entertaining enough, but I kind of play, I take them in, and then I don't really think about them ever again. And Many Nights of Whisper is just one that, like, it's a perfect marriage, I think, between really simple gameplay, but uh, really like well sold consequences for like what happens. And so that tells me if I'm sold on what happens if I miss this shot, that tells me that I care about this story and I care about
Mhm.
the moment to moment decisions that I'm making and stuff like that, which it's a pretty rare game that I play where I like really care and stress about what's going to happen in the game. And that's why Many Nights of Whisper it was in my top 10 for 2025, maybe the top 5. I don't remember my list
Wow.
anymore, but
Okay.
yeah. Really really good game, and we have a lot to discuss. This is probably going to be one of the classic Tales from the Backlog, like, podcast is longer than the game episodes today, which does happen. But yeah, this is really great. Do you have any other like top level thoughts here before we dive in proper?
Not necessarily. I do want to riff a little bit off of your acknowledgement of my point about indie game writing. As you
Hmm.
spoke, it made me reflect on some like counter examples to my own point, and I think what maybe I was going for instead is the idea, like some of my favorite games of all time, like let's say Zelda Breath of the Wild or Persona 5 Royal. I really couldn't say anything meaningful about what those stories are. It is almost entirely about like the package that it's like selling itself within.
Mm.
But the games that, in terms of writing, or the games that like linger in my thoughts of things to continue thinking and like mulling over, are almost always indie games. Like indie games have this like unique ability to kind of like float into the memory in a way that a lot of like, let's say, AAA games that I in theory like just as much um don't. So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe it isn't unique to indie games, but there's something particular powerful when an indie game like hits those notes. It's just sort of unexpected when it like something feels so personal, so crafted, and so
Yeah.
like intimately investigative of like your own psychology, or in this case like ethics and consequences on society.
Yeah. I think that that's what it is. I think that number one, it's inherently more personal a product because it's not, a team of hundreds making it, or they're not focus grouped or things like that. It's like this small group of people has this very specific story or life experience or something they want to turn into a game. And so a lot of those barriers are removed from like their heart to yours in a way. And the other part about it, just like this game really wants to focus in on like the morality of kind of playing God and granting wishes and stuff like that, and the consequences of your actions, and then like the ultimate consequence, whether you make the shot or not. And those are things that like indie games can often be way more focused in that way than like a sprawling, multi-million dollar budget, AAA type thing, or
Mhm.
like like the Death Strandings of the worlds. Those
Mhm.
those you may be able to dig into like really affecting things in those types of games, but they're not. Death Stranding is a bad example to say it's not focused. It's the least focused fucking thing of all time. But um, like you know what I mean, like a Ghost of Yote for something that was on the show kind of recently, or a Persona 5, like they're doing a lot more. And then you play an indie game like this, and it's just like we're really focusing on this really specific thing and knocking it out of the park.
Mhm. Yeah, and as you're speaking, it makes me wonder, like, what sort of personal influences the developers brought into this game, like some of the
Hmm.
subject matter that it gets explored through the wishing process, which we'll speak about later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's this sort of implied metaphor that I think all players of this game will reach at, which is like, if everything is depending upon one shot, if I make it, everything's great. If I miss, everything's terrible. I think that could be like a pretty broad metaphor for a lot of people and the pressure they feel in their own lives. Like if I
Yeah.
get this promotion or if I ask this person out or whatever, like things
Hmm.
feel like world ending or like everything is riding on this one moment. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to speak to the developers about like where that concept originated.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. And before anyone gets any ideas, if they're here and they don't really know me and my gaming taste, I love AAA games. I know you love lots of them too, Flora. So like we're
Sure.
not this isn't the shit on AAA podcast. It will never be. I love that stuff. But there is a difference in scope and focus for
Hmm.
sure in a lot of these. So with that being said, let's take our first music break. When we come back, we will set up the story. We'll go into more detail about your role and the shot. In Many Nights a Whisper, you play as a character named the Dreamer. The Dreamer is a young woman who's been raised in a monastery to one day take part in a ceremony. The way the ceremony works is in the days leading up to it, these people come up to the monastery. They are going to make wishes, which the Dreamer can choose to accept or not. Then, at the end of this sequence of days, the ceremony comes, and the Dreamer needs to use this slingshot to shoot a fireball into a large chalice that's set in the water really, really, really far away. It's like a kind of an impossibly long shot. It's very far away. The way that it works is, as we said, if the Dreamer makes the shot, all of the wishes that they chose to grant will come true. And if they miss the shot, none of the wishes that were made will ever come true. So if you, let's say, for example, this is not something in the game, but like, let's say if the person comes up and is like, okay, my wish is to solve world hunger. And the dreamer's like, yeah, sure, world hunger, we don't need that. We'll grant that wish. And then they miss the shot. My interpretation is world hunger will never be solved because they missed this shot. And this introduction and then the first couple examples that you get, wishes that come up, really sold me that this is an important shot and I need to practice because you have practice time every day. And I need to take these wishes seriously. And I want to like state again, buy-in is not a given thing when I'm playing a video game. Buy-in on the stakes of the story, buy-in on anything really. You have to sell me, especially in like a lot of games where it's like, the world is going to end. The wild hunt is going to come in The Witcher 3. And I'm playing The Witcher 3 and I'm like, it's gonna be fine, you know? Like, I know how fiction works. I know how video games work. It's gonna be fine. This game got me hooked on the idea that, like, "Nah, Dave, you gotta make this shot." Like, things are there, the world is kind of depending on you in a way. I don't know if that's how you felt.
Oh, now you got me thinking about The Witcher 3. I don't know if
Oh,
you've ever
no.
read, the books, but, the final book in, like, the 8 or the main 8 books at least, I don't know if it's got video game logic here, but that's all I'll say. But, as far as, just kinda like the high level overview, my interpretation of the stakes were maybe a little less severe in this game than yours
Mhm.
were. Um, I I think if I went back and replayed it, I might have a different impression based on some of the more, like, narration text. But I if this dreamer process, happens every 10 years on a reliable cycle, I wonder
Mhm.
if, okay, you missed world hunger in 10 years, can I wish for it to be
Yeah,
cured
possibly.
again?
Yeah,
Or is that wish, like, metaphysically invalidated? Like, I'm
right.
actually not sure, but in your description and scenario of, like, world hunger is just there to stay, baby, like, that is terrifying, and
Yep.
yes, ups the stakes considerably.
Mhm. So, I was sold on this, and, you know, one of the cool things about this too is if you pay attention, you can kinda pick out ways that I think that the world has been changed by past wishes that were granted. This game's, like, visual style, or, like, architectural style is, like, this very old, like, Mediterranean feeling type of, setting, but, like, your character has, like, a metal band, like, cut off t-shirt on. They talk about eating, you know, modern foods, and, like, someone talks about starting a band, I think. Like, it's the
Yeah.
modern technology, the modern day, but, like, things are different, and it's like it's different because people got their wishes granted in the past and stuff like that. So, like, you're also sold on the power of this. Like, this is real. You can fundamentally alter the way the world works with these wishes. So, again, I got to make that shot, and I need to grant wishes that I think are worth changing the world over, you know?
Mhm.
Which is interesting because you get a lot of wishes, and not all of those wishes are created equal, we'll say.
Yeah, it's a really strange setup for a world because of the sort of like anachronistic nature of everything. And I like that you highlighted like the contrast between, let's say, the Mediterranean-ish architecture. I'm no expert on describing
Yeah, me either.
buildings and
Just
chalices.
a guess. Yeah.
But it does evoke that feeling. And then the juxtaposition with like the cut off metal band t-shirt, or when the sort of advisor character, the mentor character, talks
Mhm.
about what they would like to do after this process, and they're sort of relieved of their mentor role, and one of the things is to write an album. And some of the wishes in this game touch on modern themes that, like, after every wishing sequence in the night, you have a little, like, narration of the dream that the dreamer's having,
Yeah.
and in some of those descriptions, it mentions things like televisions, and so, like, it feels like the actual setting, the confined area of the playable space is in a totally different era that could be 1,000 years older,
Yep.
but the outside world that we don't really ever see or get access to, is comparatively modern. But one question I sort of do have is how different that world is from ours. I mean, as far as I know, we don't have a dreamer shooting slingshots to, grant wishes in the real world, but
Mhm.
I don't see any substantial, like, differences in the way that people or the world works. Like, we don't hear about any wish that's been granted where all of a sudden all pigs have wings.
Yeah.
Um, like, okay, like, I think that could be an interesting flavor text, like, to add in, like, little lore nuggets about the world. But the as far as, like, what we're given access to as the player, it feels like this setting was just dropped into 2020 or something like that.
It could be. And I mean, like, I've never been to, like, the Mediterranean region, for example, but, like, there are still places that look like that are still, you know, around.
Yeah.
I just got this feeling that, like, there is things have been fundamentally changed by past wishes. And in the achievement text, like when you
Mhm.
get a Steam achievement, those will talk about history of past dreamers and wishes. Like, for example, there's no moon in this game, and they explain that in one of the achievement texts as, like, someone in the past wished that there was no moon, and so now there's no moon. And the flavor text also says that they didn't wish to remove the word moon from the vocabulary. So like the word moon is here, we know what a moon is, but there's just something missing up in the sky or something like that. So like things have been changed in weird ways by past wishes, and so I want to like dig in a little bit more on these wishes because this sets up a really nice tension for me between gameplay and the wish mechanic. You know, people come at night, they ask you to grant their wish, and the way they do that is they these they have these long braids that they stick through a glory hole in the wall. It's a glory hole for hair, and their braids go down onto this like this ceremonial slate, and you have a knife, and the way that you tell them you're going to grant their wish is you cut their braid off, and then the mentor takes their hair and weaves it into your slingshot. This is how your slingshot gets power. And the chalice that you need to shoot into in the ritual is really far away, and when you start the game you can't shoot there, you can't shoot far enough. So there is this inherent struggle between, I need to grant a bunch of wishes to get enough power to reach the thing, because it is possible to finish the game and not have enough power in your slingshot and just fail because you didn't grant enough wishes. So
Oh
you,
no.
yeah, it's possible. Shout out, someone in the various discords did this. I don't remember who, I'm sorry, but it is possible. So you're like, okay, I feel this pressure, I have to grant some wishes. So you have these people come up and ask you, and the way they lead you into this, they give you some real softball wishes. They're like, we're having a drought, my wish is for more rain. And you're like, okay, rain. And they also say an appropriate amount of rain, not a drought, no flooding, just like enough rain so the crops will grow. And you're like, all right, done. Second one is like, I want to bring back this extinct flower. I think it's a very pretty flower, and I'm sad that it's extinct. And you're like, sure, we'll bring back the flower. And then as you go, the wishes get harder and more nuanced, and there's a bunch of them that are just really fucking selfish, and things that we're going to have fun talking about in the spoiler section, like things that would do harm to other people who are not involved with the wish, like and so it gets harder and harder to just say yes to everybody if you're role playing this with your own morals or an imagined moral code or something. I don't think you're just going to say yes to everyone. So I felt a really strong tug of war between the idea that I want to make the shot, I have to grant wishes, versus I've had 5 wishes in a row that I'm just like, man, you can't fucking wish that. That's messed up. No, get out of here. So I thought this is excellent, like a really good use of combining these two parts of the game.
You're actually making me want to go back and replay this with a sort of chaotic evil
Oh
approach
yeah.
where I don't cut the braids of like the respectable wishes and then I just enable all the selfish dramatic things that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
I do wonder what the world would look like if I actually made the
Hmm.
shot in that playthrough, but I'm
Yeah.
sure maybe that's the world we're currently living in.
Hmm. Did you feel that pressure that like as you're going through, like I have to grant wishes, like maybe this person up here right now, like it's pretty iffy on like if I really want this to happen, but god damn it, I need to say yes to someone.
I didn't personally feel a lot of pressure in that regard because I don't
Okay.
think, and maybe you noticed this based on my reaction, I don't think I was aware that you could fail the main objective by
Okay.
not collecting enough
Mm.
braids. I think the interesting part of it for me was thinking from like a moral perspective, what the consequences, what the like, I mean, there's different ethical frameworks. That you can apply like virtue ethics or consequentialism or, like even something like natural law theory and like these sorts of theories all sort of compete in your head. And you realize that we have conflicting intuitions as a person. That was sort of my
Mhm.
focus as I was granting or not granting wishes. I do, it also makes me like think about if you're put in a position where you have to make a difficult choice, and kind of between the lesser of two evils, like missing the shot and not being able to grant everyone's wish versus granting some maybe morally questionable or even nefarious wishes.
Hmm.
I think that that tension is palpable, even if it's not something you're actively like locked in on, like it sounds you were.
Yeah, that is interesting. The idea that like the lesser of two evils, like not granting wishes might be better than granting questionable wishes like that. Because if you're not granting the wishes, the world stays the way it is right now. And like
Mhm.
maybe there weren't, like I said, no one in the game wishes to solve world hunger. Like people have more small scale wishes for the most part. And so maybe you do decide that like maybe it's okay. And that's one of the things the game, like one of the thematic angles this game takes is like you have this high pressure thing. And yes, it would be cool if you made the shot, but like if you fail, we need you to like be okay with that. Like one of the thematic like core ideas in this game is like pressure and expectations, and then like what do you do with failure? If you fail, your life goes on. Like you don't, you know, your life's not over with this ceremony. So like if you fail or if you succeed, you need to be prepared to continue with your life after this is over. And that's what that's some of the focus of some of those conversations with the mentor character every morning, which I thought those conversations were always really nice and kind of prepared me in a way. Like if I do miss the shot, yeah, it sucks, but we gotta keep moving after that because you're not going to be a dreamer for a second ceremony.
Right. I think there's kind of two layers of pressure in that regard, where you have like the pressure of making the shot in order to like help people or, you know, like improve the world in some way. But there's this like secondary implied pressure of the fact that your character has spent 10 years in preparation for this shot. And
Yeah.
if, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm 32 years old and I'm wondering if I spent 10 years on anything and
Mm.
that 10 years amounted to a simple binary, either it works out or it doesn't.
Yep.
Um, I think that I would buckle under that pressure, and we see the
Yeah.
dreamer character, and especially in the beginning, really struggling and grappling with that pressure and the role and responsibility that they have. I would agree with your characterization that over the course of the story, like some of that pressure softens, or at least the character is like kind of taught to meditate on the ramifications for them if they don't make the shot. Like it's not like
Yeah.
their life is over. It's not like they're a complete moral failure. It's sort of presented to you almost as like just here you have this ability and you get to try and use it and maybe it'll work out and maybe it won't. It's almost like
Hmm.
no worries, even though your character is sort of internally like dealing with, okay, I finally get to have a chance to solve world hunger. Imagine how many lives that'll save.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
suddenly it's like implicitly or parenthetically, I just committed a genocide by missing the shot.
Yeah.
That's sort of I think what you're battling with internally.
That's a good point too. So I'm by the time people hear this, I'll be 38, and I've never done anything for 10 straight years, like other than mandatory school up through grade 12 and stuff. I've never held a job for more than 5 years, something like that. So like, yeah, imagine just double that. And then at the end, my longest held job was I was a high school teacher and I was a dog catcher. They tied for my longest held jobs. So I'm taking the dog catcher example because it's a lot easier to make a fun example. It's like, okay, you're a dog catcher for 10 years. At the end of this, there's this one dog, you got to catch it. And if you miss it, the world is going to be a demonstrably worse place because of that. That pressure would fuck me up. You're right. That would be terrible. And the dreamer at the beginning of this, like you said, she asks correctly, in my opinion, why does this all fall on me? Like, is too much for one person? Like, this kind of fucked up that I'm in this situation. And I think that's one of the things this game is kind of shining a light on a little bit too, is like placing tons of expectations on one person to do something. Or if you want to look at other video games, like the expectations that you place on Link, for example, or Geralt or someone like that. Uh, Everything's going to be fine because Link's going to take care of it. And Link's like, me? Like, I got to take care of everything, if he talked ever. I'm sure he'd say something like that. But yeah, those, those expectations that we place on this one person to solve all of our problems, it's kind of fucked up. And the dreamer talks about it.
Yeah, the game eventually sort of explains to you an answer to the "why me" that you just evoked. But
Hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong. In the beginning of the game, both the character and the player are both sort of in the dark about like how did this character end up here in the first place in this role?
Mm.
Like, is there a ceremony that chose them? Is there like a factory that's like spitting out these dreamer babies every 10 years? Like we
Right.
don't really get a lot of lore insight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I do think it's really cool the way the game eventually sort of like lays that out for you, but that'll be on the other half of the spoiler wall.
Yes, exactly. But it is like I did get the feeling, I'll just say that like the dreamer, how do I say this? It's not like the dreamer willingly chose to become a dreamer and train for this. Like that, like a
Mhm,
professional athlete will be like, I want to focus on football and be the best football player I can. I have an innate talent for it. I have the work ethic, and I'm just going to focus, dedicate my life to this. Like the dreamer didn't seem to make a conscious decision.
mhm,
They were chosen for one reason or another, and it's got to be like them looking around like, "Are you sure? Me? Like, I gotta do
mhm,
this?" Or at some point during the process, it's tough, and that's so you have these like meditations on the wish granting as you go through, and you read the wishes and you think about the ethics behind whatever decision you're going to make. But you also have these meditations on your role, what's going to happen if you succeed or fail with the mentor, and all of this depth. And I think that both of these things go into a really nice amount of depth and cause some real thought, at least on my end, within an hour and a half. Like this game doesn't wear out its welcome. It doesn't stick around longer than it has things to say. It's really, yeah, it's the what's so they say what the opposite, something is a mile wide and an inch deep. This is an inch wide and a mile deep, I suppose. That's how I feel about this.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you could easily look at it. I can imagine at least, like, look at a trailer for this game and see some of the mechanics involved and
Hmm.
oversimplify what this game wants to interrogate. But it's yeah, I think inch wide, mile deep is the right way to talk about this. It's something that asks questions and poses enigmas that aren't necessarily able to or the game doesn't really like offer you a chance to reach a definitive answer. It's more about the act of questioning.
Yeah.
And that's something that I find to be rather rare in games. A lot of games tend to be overwritten, and I really respect the restraint that the writing holds in this game. And there's so many evocative lines, like where you'll just see like one word that's like, captivate or something, and it just like moves on. And
Hmm.
it's like, what was that trying to make me think about? And I love that about the game. It's like a question generating game rather than a question answering game.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's from the wishes or whether it's from things that the mentor says, it's always kind of posing things to you as like food for thought or an actual question
Mhm.
instead of being like, this we're telling you our philosophy as the people writing this game. It's always posed in that kind of way to make you think instead. And it's super interesting. When we get to the spoiler section, we'll kind of walk through some of our favorite wishes and maybe some of the more difficult decisions. And like, there's gonna be things I know that like I'm going to be like, I felt very strongly this way about this wish, and you're going to feel very strongly in the other direction
Mhm.
or something very unpredictable, and vice versa. And it's super interesting that they set up so many of those things. Like we're going to have to purposely not talk about everything because then we'd be here for like 3.5 hours just talking about every single moral dilemma that they put in front of you. So just super cool in that way. Um, we should
Absolutely.
say.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say one other like element to add in here, in terms of like the ambiguity and the questions that are generated in this game.
Mhm.
In between the day night sequences, like when you're done with the ritual of the cutting of the hair, we have the dream sequences that are just black text, or sorry, black backgrounds with white text,
Mhm.
and you will get snippets that are related to the requests that were made of the dreamer. And
Mhm.
so the actual dream content that we're given is like from the sort of almost like a third person omniscient perspective of the dreamer. And there will be things that like either you granted this wish or you didn't, and that either shows up in the dream or it doesn't. And I
Mm,
just think that's a really cool thing because I don't know how you feel about dreams. I've read a lot of Jungian psychology and steeped myself in Freud, and there's some sort of like neurophysiological role that dreams play with like archival of memory and restoration of like all of these. I'm not going to go into like the science and pretend like I know what I'm talking about,
mhm,
but the fallout or the implication of that is like, do dreams have like spiritual significance to them? Do they
mhm,
have cosmological significance to them? When you have a dream, does it mean something? Like there's books entirely dedicated to the interpretation of dreams.
mhm,
And I tend to fall on the side of like, no, they don't really mean anything. It's just my brain like mishmashing a bunch of things that happened and that I'm worried about and whatever
mm.
else. Maybe there's some role or like insignificance in my conscious waking life that dreams can play. But based on how you think about dreams, whether they're actually significant or whether they're not, those little text sequences that break up the days, I think is another thing where like different players will probably find different degrees of significance in what we're presented there.
Yeah, I've kind of thought of dreams ever since, I took the last time I took any sort of like class that dealt with something like this was a very long time ago.
Mhm,
But the way that I generally think about them is like your brain using the dream to organize all the fucking information that it's taken in over, a recent period of time or something. So it would be easy to kind of just see it as that. But I do think that because when you dream something that is like really affecting, it does affect you in waking life.
mhm,
I do think that there's a little bit more to it, and uh, I personally don't treat them as like just noise that my
mhm,
brain is trying to make sense of. And we've had a couple episodes on this show where we've talked about like it's stories where like it's all a dream or something vaguely related to that idea are not inherently bad because of that, because things that happen in dreams affect us in real life in that way. And in this one, um, you can kind of read into those however you want. I chose to read into those as like I granted this wish. Now the dreamer is dreaming about what happens when this comes true,
mhm,
and I'm like, "Oh, cool. Like it actually turned out well or it's going to be good." But
mhm.
there's some where I'm like, I had an idea about this person's intentions. I grant the wish, and then at night the dreamer dreams about that person using the wish coming true to do something selfish or bad or something. I'm like, "Fuck, they tricked me." Like I did read into them in a little bit of a like, was it did I do good or did I get tricked in a kind of way, you know?
Mhm.
So, again, more to talk about there. I think I did maybe include some in my notes of like what those resolutions were, if you do choose to read them as resolutions. We haven't talked about the act of playing Many Nights a Whisper other than just like a quick one-off, like you get to practice. The game takes place in third person. You have like the kind of over-the-shoulder third-person view, and when you zoom in your slingshot, you it zooms in much closer to the dreamer. And one thing about this is there is no aiming reticle on the screen,
Mhm.
so you really have to develop sight lines and references and you know I need to shoot it into this chalice, so I'm going to angle up my dreamer's elbow with this other thing and point up at a certain angle and try and get it in there. And you get as much practice time as you want each day. You always choose when to shut it down for the day. And I really, again, I cared about making the shot, like deeply cared about it. So I practiced a lot. I got all the Steam achievements, which come from making practice shots and stuff like that. And it's still, I never felt 100% comfortable with it because they take away that aiming reticle, which I think is a
Mhm.
really smart move.
Yeah, I think that I wasn't explicitly cognizant of the lack of reticle, but there's also this, as you mentioned, this draw distance that your sling is given over the course of the game. It's variable based on how many braids have been collected, and
Hmm.
so in the beginning, your sling can only shoot, let's say, 50 yards forward, but by the end, it can shoot 500. And
Yeah.
over the course of that, in addition to lacking that little like dot on the center of the screen to help you precisify your shot, you have to sort of do like a physics calculation every time and just like
Hmm.
think about like, okay, what's the parabolic arc going to look like if I pull it all the
Yeah.
way back versus, and like, what if I just move it 1 inch down, but then go full power? Is that going to make a difference?
Hmm.
And so like you never get comfortable with this sling, which isn't to say it's, tough or a poor design or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
something that is constantly a variable in how you're like adapting to the mechanics. And I know that many games do that. Like you could almost frame this as like a shooter of some sort. Like some
Hmm.
games will like gradually give you attachments or give you like ammo like upgrades or things like that. So like combat changes across the board in almost every game of this ilk. But the way that this slingshot mechanic evolves, I think since it's kind of the one real mechanic you have, like you can move around this courtyard as you're shooting your shot, and you can,
Hmm.
grant the wishes and make a couple dialogue choices throughout the game. But mechanically, that's about it. And
Hmm.
so it's so singularly focused on this sling thing that I never really, even though I never got comfortable, I still think that's like a strength of design.
Yeah, absolutely. Had they given you an aiming reticle or done the thing where they'll like actually show you the path through the air that something will take, like when you throw a grenade in another game, a lot of times they'll be like, here's where it's going to land, and you can look at the arc and stuff like that. Since this game doesn't do that, it always keeps the idea that you might miss the shot because you might miscalculate something. You might, like, I'll just say, when I got to the final shot, my hands were sweaty, like I was nervous, and nerves can make you make uncharacteristic mistakes. And so the fact that they don't give you that crutch of the reticle or some kind of arc preview or something like that, uh, it keeps it realistic that you might miss the shot. Because if they did anything like that, it would just be like, well, I'll wait till the shadow goes into the chalice and then I'll let it go and everything will be fine. And this game doesn't do that. So you mentioning the courtyard gave me one other thing I want to mention. Like, you have a very small space with which you can like walk around, and it's a very small space that the whole game takes place in. You're just in this courtyard. You can see off, there's like these chalices off in the water you use to practice. And then there's like the place where you live, I guess, like right next to the courtyard, where the mentor is, and you talk to them, and you don't see anything else. It's a very small scale game. And I think that this might be like these developers' thing, because they're putting out a new game in 2026. And just like keeping scale small keeps everything focused, but also allows you to make more games and get them out
Mhm.
faster. And not spreading this out into like a much bigger area, letting you walk around town or something like that, like really keeps this laser focused on everything. Everything looks nice, but they didn't have to design a whole bunch of stuff for the game. Uh, the small scale of it, I think, is something that plays to the game's strengths too, especially with its short length.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't really imagine a way that you would expand a game like this without diluting it in some manner. Like you
Hmm.
mentioned just offhandedly, like what if there was a little town you could go off and explore? I can imagine there being scenarios that you would like overhear or things that would like kind of characterized or contextualize the wish that you would later receive, and you would sort of be
Hmm.
able to like read backwards into, oh, it's that shopkeeper from down around the bakery's corner, like, and that sort of logic might add some flavor to the decisions you're making. But
Mm.
personally, I like the fact that all of the wishers are anonymous. We don't really know where they're coming from most of the time. Like we don't ever see if there is like a town right out there.
Hmm.
God knows we don't have access to it
Yep.
visually. And so Yeah, I just really respect when games hone in on something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more note, it might just be a note, but the music is really good. I like the kind of dreamy, atmospheric, very kind of relaxing tone that the music takes for most of it. You're out in this like beautiful sunny courtyard, and the music has this kind of positive, atmospheric vibe to it that people hear in the episode. Let the music speak for itself a little bit up until this point that people have listened. But I generally thought, like, we talked about this game, despite how serious the stakes of the shot are, it's a pretty positive tone game. Like, getting you prepared mentally for what if you do miss. And so the music kind of takes that kind of positive, uplifting type of feel too in a nice way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reflected in the visuals as well. Like, it's a very bright, cheerful looking game. It's overlooking the
Hmm.
water, which I think is for many people a source of calm.
Yeah.
Like even the sort of timeless nature of the architecture, like all of those things are very relaxing and peaceful. I will say, just a note on the music. I think it would be hilarious if someone made a mod where during the actual slingshot, you know how we mentioned Dreamers wearing like a cut off metal band tee.
Yep.
If it like
Uh-huh.
went into like a death metal
I
breakdown
knew
as you
that's
like
where you were
aimed the
going.
shot,
Hell
I,
yeah.
I think that would intensify it. And it's like adding Thomas the Tank Engine into Resident Evil, the equivalent
Yes.
of that for this game.
Yeah, yeah, you go into the final ceremony and fucking Cannibal Corpse starts playing or something like that would be so good. Yeah.
They
Um
could raise it to $5 at that
uh,
rate.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. They're going to need it to pay for the license for the music. So yeah, I think this is a good point. I think that we're getting ready to start talking about those wishes and the decisions we made. So it's a good point to kind of give our final recommendations and stuff like that. So, Flora, who is there any type of person specifically that you think this would appeal to?
I feel as though this is a game that's well suited, as we've already mentioned, for anyone who has a penchant for kind of like unique indies. That's a basic starting line there. But more
Hmm.
specifically, I think anyone who's into narrative adventures, dialogue choices, especially when games offer you this promise of having consequences to the decisions you're making, rather than it simply being
Hmm.
like pre-selected dialogue options that kind of all lead to one conclusion. This is a game that resists like closure and certainty. There's a reason that Dave and I are still thinking about this game months later,
Hmm.
despite the brief runtime. And as you alluded to with the what sounds like an awesome Discord social channel, this is the perfect like sit down if you just want to like knock a game out one afternoon and you don't want to commit to that next 30-hour experience. This
Hmm.
is a perfect palate cleanser game. Like if that like the role that it could serve.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that especially indie game fans, we just have love for these like short, focused, very impactful types of games. Like I know several podcasts that are just built around short indie games that leave like a lasting impact, like Dot Zip or Tiny Game Chronicles. Like those types, people who like those kinds of games, like this is a must play type of game for you all. But I think that the really like I struggle to think of anyone who would be this deep into a Tales from the Backlog episode and not, you don't want artful, impactful experiences out of video games. Like I think this is something that basically everyone would get something out of. There's a lot of people where I'd be like, if you don't like this and if you don't like this, but like I don't think those are the people that listen to this show. So yeah, if it would be like if you got to kill stuff in video games, then don't play Many Nights of Whisper. But like I just don't think that's my audience. So yeah, pretty easy recommendation for most people. And like I don't talk about this all the time, but it's $3 full price. Like it's not a big commitment in time or money. And I think it will stick with you much further than the average game. So with that being said, before we get into spoilers, we have our housekeeping per usual. We always start with the guest and the work that they do. So, as I said at the beginning of the show, Flora's part of Left Behind Game Club podcast. You also do written criticism at Epilogue Gaming and other artistic ventures too. So, please, Flora, the floor is yours. Tell people about your work and where they can find it.
Yeah, thank you. I will just go ahead and give a broad social media handle. I'm at Flora Merigold on anything if I have an account.
Hmm.
And that's Merigold, like Triss Marigold from The Witcher.
Uh-huh.
Common misspelling, not like the flower exactly. Um,
Hmm.
but so I'm on, like Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all sorts of different places. I'm in all the various discords that you probably are in for your gaming podcasts. So you can find me at any of those places. You mentioned my work at Epilogue Gaming. I try to put out an article on games that make an impact on me about once a month. And then periodically I co host Left Behind Game Club, which is, as it sounds, a book club about, a book club formatted podcast about video games. Some of the
Hmm.
other things I have coming down the pipeline, I have some music I'll be spreading on all of that social media eventually, and I have a book that's coming out, which you will be able to purchase online. And it'll be like a physical copy of everything. It's like 75 pages. I just signed the contract and everything, but that should
Hell
be
yeah.
out closer to July. So if you want to see some of my other artistic stuff, stick around on one of those social media channels at Flora Marigold, and you'll see some of that stuff sooner than you might expect.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to that. And by the time people hear this, that will be coming up relatively soon. So pay attention, stay tuned for that. And as far as your games related work, the your writing at Epilogue Gaming is always like appointment reading for me when I find out you've done a new one. I really appreciate your perspective and the way you walk through like the emotional impact and connections that the games have on you. I really enjoy reading that.
Thank you.
And yeah, of course. And Left Behind Game Club, of course. I've now collected, I think, 4 Left Behind Game Club hosts as guests on this show, as Travis recently made his first appearance. So I wouldn't do that if I didn't think you all were good at what you were doing. I really genuinely enjoy the conversations had on the show
Thank
as
you.
well. And yeah, and I've been lucky enough to be a part of a couple Left Behind Game Club episodes. And it's always a great time. So it's one of those shows where I'm like, easily, like, if you like Tales from the Backlog, I have a hard time thinking you wouldn't also like Left Behind Game Club a similar amount. It's a very good show. So down in the show notes, I will make sure to put links to social handles people can follow your various artistic pursuits. You're doing a lot of different types of stuff, which is always really cool. And then of course, Epilogue Gaming, Left Behind Game Club for people's video game related needs. So yeah.
Good luck collecting the final Infinity Stones of the Left Behind Game Club hosts.
Yes.
Like it's some of us are rather elusive at times.
I'm persistent. I'm a crazy person. So yeah. Um, Down in the show notes again, people can find those. And I did most of my plugs at the top of the show, but the only one I didn't do yet is the Discord server for the podcast is open. People are free to join, and down in the show notes is the invite link for the Discord. And we often have like game specific channels where we talk about our experiences kind of in more depth, so we don't clog up other channels. And this game is the type of game that would generate a bunch of conversations. So if you feel like you want a new Discord server, which I know all of us, we're dying for more Discord servers, but if you do want to join, we would love to have you. And there's an invite link again in the show notes. So with that being said, we're going to take our spoiler break. And when we come back, it will be full spoiler time for Many Nights a Whisper. All right, before we get to full spoiler time for Many Nights a Whisper, a quick announcement, and then the customary thank yous. So, as always, at the beginning of the month, we have the Patreon vote for a game to play and cover on the show. It should be running right now, at least for another day. So, if you want to head over to Patreon and vote for a game to be on the show, patreon.com/realdavejackson is the place. Oh, and the winner of May's poll was Quest 64. So be on the lookout for an episode about Quest 64 coming later in the summer. And I want to say thank you to the patrons who are helping to support the show. A big thank you goes out to Chris Nelson, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Rick Firestone, Nick Fakori, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rigamort, Silcanet, Levi, John E., Aliasi, Aaron, Squill, Alan Kress, Doug T., Retro Overdrive, Magic Crow, Curly Bright, Ian L., Steve Yeager, Trash Dog Actual, Delaney and Jack McBride, Ethan Young, Michael Lassen, Michael Matuzak, Keith B., A Quack a Day, and many more. As always, I give you a big thanks for your support over on Patreon. It really means a lot to me, and it helps out in a lot of different ways. And if anyone else would like to check it out, go to patreon.com/realdavejackson. Check out the tiers. Remember to vote in that monthly poll if you're on one of the paid tiers. And I just generally appreciate everyone who even considers supporting me that way. It means a lot. So, with that being said, let's get back to full spoiler time for Many Nights a Whisper. All right, we're back. It's full spoiler time for Many Nights a Whisperer. And customary disclaimers as always. Number one, we're not going to go in a linear walk through all the wishes. We're not going to go in a linear walk at all. So if you're like, I played a half hour and I don't want to hear the ending, then get out and go finish the game, come back. Flora and I will be here waiting for you. Tapping our feet and twiddling our thumbs and or angrily pointing at the watch. So that being said, the other thing is we're not going to talk about all the wishes. There are a lot, and it would just take too long to talk about them with the kind of depth that I want to talk about stuff. So we have chosen some ones that we wanted to highlight. We'll talk about those, and then we'll talk about the end and the ceremony. So Flora, to you first, let's talk about a wish. What's the first wish that you want to talk about, and what did you pick?
I want to pick one that we disagree on to
Okay,
start off with, and I'd like to hear your rationale before I unpack some of mine.
sure.
Um, one of the wishes you receive, and you get, let's say, 5 a night, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
is this person wants a pink cat that is invisible to their parents.
Yes.
And set aside how you know that it's pink when it's invisible, but the person who's wishing for it would know. But you gave a strong no, and I want to hear why.
Well, okay. First of all, in the notes doc, I just wrote all caps, yes or no, so that they stick out when I'm looking at the outline. But I one of my general philosophies with the wishes, and I'm glad we're getting into this early, is that if your wish will negatively affect other people, I generally said no, no matter what your wish was.
Mhm.
So the details of this wish were they want a pink cat that is invisible to their parents, and their parents don't want to have a cat. And so this will be a secret cat that their parents can't see, but like you have a cat. I've had cats before. Cats are not invisible, leave no trace creatures. So it's not like having an invisible goldfish tank somewhere that they'll never see. So like, I think this is going to negatively affect their parents. So I said, no, that's my rationale.
Yeah, I don't remember if the parents are like allergic to cats or something. Like that might change my perspective on this a
I don't
bit.
think they said that, but they might have. I don't remember.
Because that is where it strikes me as something like a negative impact. Like people watching on YouTube might be able to see the fact that my cat has picked apart the corners of my furniture, and so like if you randomly start seeing your furniture fraying and you don't think you
Yeah.
have an animal, that might be a little confusing. And anyone who's owned a cat knows all too well the perennial joys of litter boxes.
Yes.
You might be wondering why there's once in a while a little something wafting through into the bedroom. But generally speaking, or even just a disembodied meow. I
Uh-huh.
think you could sort of get away with it though if you like kept it like in your room and like shut the door behind yourself. Um, but I don't know. I'm such a cat person. I'm such a softie. The idea of seeing a pink cat that isn't AI generated is very promising. And yeah, there's some complications and some wrinkles to iron out over the way, but maybe you've all seen that video of, like, the reluctant dad who's like, "I don't want a cat," and then it ends up, like, the cat, like, bonds with the dad more than
Right.
anything. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like the parents could come around. So I said yes on this one.
How easy would it be to come around on a pet that you can't see? Like, even if you want to love it, I don't know where the thing is. So,
I mean, you'd probably have to sit down and have a conversation with the person who could see the animal.
yeah,
Otherwise, you might think you are being haunted by a cat ghost.
yeah. You interesting to think about. Like, I'm kind of just like noticing day by day that my cat the ends of my couches are getting scratched up, or like I promise I just saw something knock a water bottle off the counter. Like, what happened? Like, it might drive them crazy. So, yeah, that's why I said no to the cat. Like, when I first saw the wish, I was like, a pink cat. All right, hell yeah, there's no problem with that. If you lock it in your room, like, what quality of life are you giving that cat? Like,
Yeah.
cats need enrichment and stuff like that. Or you let it out your window and let it invisibly prowl around and kill all the birds and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't
This
stop to think
this
about the implications on the bird population. That
this
actually
cat's gonna
complicates things.
destroy the fucking ecosystem, Flora.
All right, you put me in the maybe camp all of a sudden. Somehow thinking about the bird softened me up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the first one for you. I'm gonna also start with a kind of a funny one, which is to make tobacco cheap and healthy. And not only that, it's not going to be healthy in the way that salad is healthy, where it's like salad is like, other than the fiber content, salad is like you're not doing harm to your body by eating salad, so it's healthy. You get vitamins, you get fiber, and you don't fuck up your cholesterol or something like that. Cigarettes in this wish, tobacco, will be cheap, it will be healthy, it will be so healthy that you get healthier by smoking. So I said, hell yes, we're going to have the coolest society in the world. And we're going to deal with this 10 years from now. If it turns out to be actually bad, that everyone's like super healthy and jacked all the time because everyone's smoking, it'll probably still smell bad, I guess. But like, I don't know. We'll deal with it in 10 years. I said yes to this.
I am not very conflicted about this one. I gave a pretty hard no on this.
Okay.
In theory, the attitude would be hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
But I grew up with a mom who smoked cigarettes
Hmm.
constantly, and I knew pretty much as soon as I could identify what a cigarette smelled like that I would never smoke a cigarette in my life. Like, I
Hmm.
absolutely despised the smell, and in the rare circumstance where I walk by someone, like, exhaling cigarette smoke, I, like, borderline gag. It's so repulsive to me.
Yeah.
Now I'm not sure if the wish specifies, like, if it's all tobacco, like, if I go to a hookah lounge and smoke, is that gonna also achieve similar effects? Or, if I, do, like, chewing tobacco, like, and, like, put that in my gums, am I gonna
Uh
somehow,
huh.
like, show up to the dentist and they're like, "You don't even need a cleaning. It's made you so
Everything's
healthy."
just perfect in there. Yeah.
Like, there's some weird potential secondary order effects if this is broadly tobacco.
Uh huh.
But, I'm not against, if someone wants to, like, smoke cigarettes, like, cool, whatever. There's this kind of cultural assumption that I see often where people say that people smoking cigarettes look cool. I have never once thought that. I don't know if that's just because of the personal association I have, but, I dated a cigarette smoker for 3 years. I don't know how I did it.
Hmm.
But, like,
It's because they
it's
look cool.
yeah, you know what? That's exactly what it was. I see, like, these classic films of, like, the protagonist, like, flicking their cigarette into the drain and, like, it's like a noir setting, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I guess I get the illusion, but I've never seen someone smoke 'em and like, "Wow, that's attractive." So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely have not. I haven't seen someone smoke, even like, like in an old movie or something, like the pretty lady with like the very long cigarette or something
yeah.
like that. Like, I've never been like, wow, smoke show, literally. Um, but if it's healthy, I'm willing to try it. It's like, what
Yeah.
if smoking cures cancer? Then like, hell yeah, let's everyone should smoke. And because I never smoked and I didn't grow up around cigarette smoke, I kind of like the smell if I pass someone on the street. I don't want to like sit
Hmm.
in their smoke, but if I just pass on the street and I get a waft of it, I'm like, smells kind of nice, and then I keep walking. And that's the extent to which I want to smell it. Actually, before we started recording today, I went and I bought a used PS3
Oh,
from
awesome.
somebody. Yeah, and they were an inside smoker, and it's like as soon as I got in there, I
Oh,
was like, I still want the PS3, but god damn it. All right, fine. That this is gonna I'm gonna have to like put this in the garage or something for a couple
to
weeks
let
and
it
let
air
this
out.
shit. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you that like I don't. It's still gonna smell bad, but it might it might cure cancer. So yeah,
Honestly, you might want to like take apart that PS3 and like air or compressed air your way through
yeah.
that. But um,
That's my plan for after recording is look up how to open a PS3.
when you mentioned like if it's healthy, you would try it. I my immediate reaction to that is basically there's plenty of things that I know are healthy for me that I'm staying 100 feet away from at all times. Like
Mm,
fish, I've read countless nutrition books about how
mm,
fish is one of the best things you can integrate into your diet. And like there's all of these like downstream effects, or same with like mushrooms. That's like my least favorite food.
mm.
I know they're great for you. I find them utterly repulsive, and so I'm like, even though I have that knowledge, there's this like and like the inner animalistic part of me is like or maybe even just the inner child is like I'm picky, you know, like I don't want
That's
this.
true.
I
Yeah,
think that would also be my reaction to cigarettes if they smelled and tasted the same. Not that I would
yeah,
really know the taste, but I do. I dated one, so a
yeah. Right.
cigarette, no. uh,
Mm. If they hadn't said they will improve your health, then I would probably be with you. Where it's like there's a lot of things that are healthy that we don't that I don't want. So yeah. So that is the tobacco wish. And I just assume it's cigarettes that people are gonna be using because that's everywhere. So what's another wish that you wanted to talk about?
I'm gonna stick with the animal theme with mine for now.
Mm,
Removing souls from animals.
yes.
And kind of the justifying logic from this is the person making the wish basically wants to feel less guilty about consuming meat
Yeah.
or animal products in general. Now, with this one, this is an easy no for me.
Yeah. Same.
I'm not entirely convinced that animals have souls or that humans do for that matter. It depends on what you mean by a soul. That's a whole
Hmm.
other can of worms I'm just going to table for
Yeah.
now. Hopefully, the pink cat doesn't knock it off later.
Uh-huh.
But I would say that having wrestled with in my own personal life the issue of veganism, vegetarianism, even like more obscure dietary choices like fruitarianism, there is a really compelling argument against eating meat based on the way that we do so now. The factory farming system, basically, like
Hmm.
from field to fork, is atrocious with all these ethical issues. The workers are underpaid and mistreated, and oftentimes, like there's human trafficking issues. The
Hmm.
environmental implications of simply cattle, not to mention the rest of the animals we farm for meat consumption, is one of the main drivers of climate change. And then I'm sure many of you have seen those classic horrific videos from PETA, like the Meet Your Meat video being the
Yeah.
big classic one where it
Hmm.
shows the inside of slaughterhouses and how chickens have like their beaks cut off and are put in cages smaller than the size of a piece of paper, and how like cows have their throats slit and are like hung by like just all sorts of awful things that I don't even need to describe. I think we all are sort of aware.
Yeah.
There's also been those economic pushes towards, let's say, greener meat or more ethical meat or like cage-free eggs and stuff, which have their own issues. Free range animals depends
Hmm.
on legally what that means. And there's a lot of ways that you can sort of argue and justify your consumption of meat in this day and age. There's a lot of options. Not to
Yeah.
mention, there's all those meat replacements that are getting closely indistinguishable.
Hmm.
A final thought on this is the state of Florida proposed some legislation to ban this, but scientists are on the cusp of basically like lab growing meat. So there doesn't
Yep.
actually need to be any animal suffering involved. And so, all of those things considered, you have options. Those options are increasing both in accessibility and like variability. Why is your solution to take the soul away from these creatures, whatever that
Yeah.
means, like watch the light leave their eyes. And so like just so you can
Yeah.
have quote unquote real meat, whatever that means, or at least in the traditional way we raise it. I
Mhm.
think this person has lived in a basement their whole life and doesn't know actually what they're wishing for.
Yeah. I was thinking about this in, like, the way that, like you said, we've all, like, had these thoughts about what goes into the meat that we eat and, like, how it's produced, and, like, when I was in college, for a little while, I was an animal science major on, like, the agriculture side of animal science, so, like, I've been to a pig farm, I've been to a slaughterhouse, I've learned how to slaughter a cow. I didn't, like, do it myself, I didn't get far enough in the program, I guess, but I saw the facility, like, I know how it's done, and, like, the ways that it's done in a quote humane way, a more humane way than I guess alternatives. So like I know what goes into the hamburger that I eat, and I still eat it, and it's a, you know, an ethical concern I guess of mine, but it's not enough of a concern for me to stop. But with that being said, I wouldn't remove the soul out of animals because, like, what would be so different between lab grown meat and an animal with no soul? Like, if it has no soul, it's just a walking, it's like a robot made out of flesh or something like that. Like,
Mhm.
effectively, what is so different about that? And the Wish, I think, didn't stipulate that, like, only cows, chickens, and pigs and common, you know, meat animals would
Yeah.
have the souls removed. It's all animals. So it's like I'm removing the soul from my dog. I'm removing the soul from your cat. I'm removing the soul from the squirrels out in the tree. Like, if they do have souls, which I you know, I'm not a super spiritual person, but I do believe in the idea of a soul. That's not worth it for this one person to feel less guilty. There's a lot of ways to feel less guilty without, like you said, removing the light from the eyes of every animal on the planet. So yeah, that was an easy no.
Yeah, another thought I was having about this is like, why didn't this wisher say like remove um pain from the process of, harvesting animals for, food products or something like that? Like,
Right.
because even if you take the soul away, presumably these animals still have central nervous systems and can feel the pain of their
Yeah.
existence.
Right.
Like, it actually doesn't solve much of a problem for me, like from an ethical dilemma perspective. It's like this wish is both like shallow and poorly crafted.
Yes. Hey, these wishers, they are not perfect. They're not perfect people. Some of them probably not very smart. So that's what you get when you open things up to the public. I guess you're gonna get you're gonna get a wide range of people coming up. Um, Yeah, so the dreamer can empathize with anyone who's in a public facing job, I suppose. So, yeah, souls, animals keep their souls. That was an easy no. Get the fuck out of my my glory hole. Get away. The next one that I picked to talk about. Let's see. I want to make sure we hit the ones that we really want to talk about. There's a wisher that comes up, and their wish is to make gender irrelevant.
Mhm.
Their thing is they they want people to stop worrying about gender, and it's not, I didn't take this to mean that gender doesn't exist, but for people to not have this as a thing that either feels confining or something that defines them
Mhm.
or something like that. It's clearly someone who is struggling with gender identity
Mhm.
and doesn't it want, either they want to stop worrying and they don't want other people to care about it either. Whether it's people caring about them and how they, you know, identify, or just in general, like make it irrelevant. Who gives a shit what your gender is? And so I said yes to this. I can give my rationale, or I can. What did you say to them?
I think with this one I said yes, but I since we're I think roughly in agreement on the like broad strokes of like the motivation for this wish,
Yeah,
some part of me wants to express a little like devil's advocate position and say like, as a transgender person myself, who's like, I've kind of embodied multiple incarnations of gender as I've worked my way up until this point.
mm-hmm,
Like gender is an intensely meaningful thing for the person involved. And like
mm-hmm,
when I moved away from my home state of Florida, when they became this like very anti-trans hellhole, like I'm all too aware of like gender mattering in the wrong ways.
yes,
Um, but in this same sort of turn, a lot of my friend group in the new city that I live in happens to be made up of trans and genderqueer people. And to me, I feel a lot safer around those people. Now, maybe I feel safer around them because of the discriminatory world we live in that's
Mhm.
increasingly hostile to people like us. But also, there's this sort of there's this basically it's a sexual orientation that you may have heard of. Listeners might not be aware of, like T for T, which is trans people who are like seeking other trans people to be in a relationship with
Mm.
or have as a partner. And that's appealed to me in some sense because, like, being with someone who has the same lived experience as you and who can, like, kind of understand intuitively some of the struggles that you're internally having, not that the world is putting on you, but that you're feeling within yourself.
Mhm.
I find that to be immensely comforting and and it feels like a safe place with a person. And so, like, at some level, if you take away gender's relevance or it mattering at all, I think that
Mhm.
includes some of those like positive, like interpersonal aspects or like
Yeah.
the subjective elements of gender that to me I wouldn't remove, even though, transitioning from like male to female is going to make your life harder in a lot of ways. And let's say most notably financially is where we are right now. But I don't know. I see where the wisher's coming from. I think I did say yes. I don't see why not, because the discrimination that gender brings about and the attention and like the trans misogyny specifically that's happening in our culture right now, not to mention just generic misogyny, it's not
Yeah.
great. So it would be
Mhm.
nice to remove the shackle part of that, but I don't know that you can remove all relevance of gender without actually having a couple like maybe unexpected negative ramifications of that.
Yeah, I had thought about that too, especially because I knew I was gonna talk with you about it, and
Yeah.
you have a different lived experience with this than I do. And my kind of thought with making gender irrelevant is that for me, in my experience, it's already kind of irrelevant.
Hmm.
Like, not literally, it's not like, someone's like, "I don't see color," or something like that. It's
Oh
like
God.
but it's like, I don't see gender. It's like, come on. But like when I go in my day to day life, I do not think about it at all. And so that is when they say make it irrelevant, that's kind of my touchstone for it being irrelevant
Mhm.
is I am comfortable with who I am, but I don't think about it. I don't, and like I guess that's just like a privilege of where my life experience and just feeling comfortable with how I was born. And so that's where I kind of thought of with this one. It seemed like they were wishing for kind of the release of all the pressure that comes along with whatever identity they're struggling with.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, I'm on board with that. And I didn't think too much about that other side of it that you brought up. I'm glad you brought that up. My note in the doc was we can try it and we can wish gender back in 10 years if it sucks, to have it be irrelevant. So I guess I was thinking like if someone wished for world hunger and we fucked it up, maybe we can try again. But or maybe like we can undo a wish that was granted
Mhm.
in some way, like within the world building. But that was where I was coming from, is just like kind of you want to go through your day to day and not think about it. Well, that's what I do. It's kind of nice from this perspective. So yeah, we'll try it.
Yeah, I will say, as someone with experience teaching in education settings, like that's something where like gender and race and sexual orientation and income level and all sorts of different factors that we use to like distinguish ourselves amongst others sort of has to collapse into a like an irrelevance in the space of like a classroom or a
Hmm.
workshop in a college setting or whatever.
Yeah.
If I were to pay attention to that with a point of relevance, if I were to suddenly expect that, oh, all the women in this class are going to do better because statistically women are better in educational settings, like we could go into all of that sort of research if we want to, but like as an educator, my role would be to ignore those factors and focus on the skill based or the like metacognitive based elements of learning.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think the way you brought up, like, the "I don't see color" thing is what we want to avoid, like,
Yeah.
because, like, these things do have relevance to people's lived experiences, and oftentimes the people who say lines like that are coming at it with the wrong intentions. I think the wisher in this case has the right intentions, and I think when
Mhm.
we both said yes, we're assuming those good intentions. One the objections I brought up are more just adding some nuance rather than actually
Yeah,
saying, "You know what? I disagree with my previous decision."
right. The nuance is good though, and that's what a lot of these wishes like, a lot of these wishes have nuance baked into, like, the 3 lines of dialogue that you get, and then a lot of them have, like, they seem very straightforward, kind of like this one when I first read it, seemed very straightforward to me, but then as you bring up, there is a lot more nuance that, like, there is a lot of positive associated with gender identity and, like,
Mhm.
caring about it, as well. So, this was a really interesting one, and it's, kinda emblematic of, like, the type of stuff that the game starts throwing at you. Even if things seem, like, really nice on the surface, think about it a little bit harder. That's what's it's like fucked up about this position that the dreamer is in of like playing God and making decisions like this. Like, what do you mean I got to consider all the nuance? Can I just say yes, fuck it, we ball, you know?
Yeah, take those animals' souls away.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck it. We'll see what it's like for 10 years for animals to not have souls. I don't like dogs anyway. I love my dog. What's another one that you picked out?
I'm gonna skip through an initial choice that I had made and bring us to the wish that is about no more work.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I went back and rewatched the game in preparation for the discussion today, and I hit this. I think at different points in my life, I would answer this differently. I think when I played this, it was over my break from work, and I was off for a month or two, and so like not having work, it was glorious. And on the flip side, there's always this stir craziness that happens. I'm in another break from work right now where like at a point I'm like tapping my watch and kind of like tapping my foot impatiently, like let me get back to the structure and routine that work offers me.
Mhm.
Now, due to current events, I've seen that several countries have shifted to a 4-day work week or like alternating commute schedules to preserve oil. And
Mm.
I saw, during the pandemic, like so many jobs were moved to remote settings. And then, so it's very possible to break the structure of work apart and minimize the amount of just raw hours of performing work when you can actually accomplish a task and be done. In an 8-hour shift,
Mhm.
you can finish all that work in 2 hours and still get paid that much. There's also this other wrinkle about like the advent of AI and how that's like changing industries, taking away jobs, automating professions that we previously took for granted as permanently being there. And the whole pipeline of education, K through 12, leading into higher education, which is basically forced at this point, if you want to have prospects of a job. And even when terminate that process with your degree, a job is not guaranteed anymore.
Mhm.
Um, I would like to shift to a world that is something close to like a universal basic income where work is something that's optional because humans are stir crazy. We get bored, we come up with ideas, we're creative, we want to express ourselves, we want to find ways to make
Mhm.
connection. There will still be, let's say, voluntary work no matter what. That's never going
Yeah.
away. And I think the Wisher here even stipulates that. And they're sort of making the case like, think of how many things we could do with that time instead of toiling away at this kind of pointless task. Because most
Mhm.
people's jobs, let's face it, do not bring them personal meaning and satisfaction. They're
Yep.
sticking around the job out of necessity because of the, economic constraints of just paying bills, rent, whatever.
Mhm.
And I would love to personally be a full time writer and that just be what I do. Instead, I have to work a full time job that exhausts me and oftentimes takes away my creative capacity to produce that writing. And I think
Mhm.
about how many other people could be producing interesting, cool, at the very least, art, but just projects in general that are stifled because of the necessity and the
Mhm.
requirements of the kind of capitalistic framework that we all exist underneath. And so I think there's some part of me that wants to say, yeah, get rid of work. And there's some other part of me that's like, no, if you get rid of work, there's going to be a lot of people who are aimless and depressed and don't know what to do with themselves and fall apart and become alcoholics and, whatever, commit suicide, like those sorts of things. So there's
Mhm.
definitely a risk in taking away the structure and the reliability and the routine and the stability that work can provide for some people. I just happen to also believe you can find all of those things, that structure and stability, in community and in like other meaningful pursuits that don't have to be obligatory.
Yeah. I think in order to say, so you said yes to this one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
No more
I
work.
think, right. No more work. No more work.
I'll be working on a protest sign over here while you give your
Yeah.
rationale.
I think in order to say yes to this one, you would have to, like, you would have to assume that things are going to be taken care of, like all the non-glamorous jobs, like are people going to be farming for the love of the game if they take away work, or is food production automated in such a way that we don't need farmers anymore, or uh are are robots going to pick up the trash, like, jobs that are necessary for day-to-day society to keep moving and,
Mhm.
keep things comfortable. Are teachers, like, in this thing, are teachers going to be teaching for the love of the game, even though most teachers probably are already? It's not like they're
Yeah.
getting paid a ton. Um, but like, yeah, so we'd have to assume that all of these things are being handled by something else.
Mhm.
Or is it like, the economic necessity of work is being replaced? Therefore, if you want to do these things, you can. And I don't know. I said no because I felt like critical, like, social service type stuff would stop,
Mhm.
because people wouldn't be picking apples for the love of the game. They would
Mhm.
quit because they don't need to anymore. And then no more apples. Like, I like apples, or I like having a trash system, or having the sewers work and stuff, like jobs that I don't think people are doing because they love them, but because, like, it's something that they can do and they get benefits for it, and like it allows them to exist and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Shout out to everyone doing a job like that. Like, God knows I've done them before. I wasn't cleaning out dog kennels in the dog shelter because I fucking love changing the newspaper and bleaching the fucking cages. It was because I couldn't find a different job. I had to do that job. So that's why I said no, because all of those things, I felt like all those things would stop. And I think in order to say yes, you have to assume that it's being made up somewhere else.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the way society works fundamentally changes in a way that, like, I don't know, it might be nice, but I don't want to be the one to say yes to that. Let some other dreamer deal with that bullshit.
No, I
That
think
makes
you raised
sense.
yeah, you totally raised some, interesting kind of like counterpoints, and you're looking at it from a very pragmatic perspective, like either things have to be fully automated in the basic social service sense, or, like I I think there's this idea, this romantic idea that if we took away work, then everyone would be like poets and artists and athletes and, whatever.
Hmm.
Like there no one is dreaming to be picking up trash on the street corner, every day and like, driving that truck around. Like maybe there is someone, I don't know. But I think society, if you can neutralize those variables, as you're saying, like you have to kind of take that assumption in stride. I think society would be better for it. I think people in aggregate would be happier. And like,
Mm.
it's interesting you mentioned farming because if I lived in a city that I could afford like a living space with a yard, I would totally farm. Like when I used to live in Florida, I would grow my own food all the time.
Hmm.
I did it for the love of the game. Now, there's a reason humans have worked for the last 10,000 years to get off of like basically agricultural like feudal systems.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there's something to be said about like the moral opportunism and the sort of let's say the freedom existentially that it would open up if work was no longer seen as a necessity, but rather something that you engaged in for something more personally meaningful.
Yeah. And as I was thinking there, I was like, I think the ideal with the way you described it would be like, okay, so maybe we don't have a person who comes around and picks up everyone's trash. Everyone just takes care of their own trash themselves and takes it to a place where it's, disposed of or whatever. Or
Mhm.
like someone who enjoys teaching is going to then be the teacher for this group. But then it kind of feels like we're just creating work again. Like
Yeah.
someone has to manage the dump, otherwise it's going to become untenable. And I think we're just going to end up creating work, creating jobs again.
Yeah, and you could also say, like, against my own sort of logic, like, okay, there's currently all of these medical breakthroughs in cancer research happening right now. Just like this is just happening since the
Yeah,
US
yeah.
left the World Health Organization. It's just suddenly exploding all these breakthroughs. It's like most of those people are probably also not doing it for the love of the game. Like, as much as nobility as we want to afford scientists and healthcare workers, to them, in a lot of cases, it's probably also just a job. And so, like, what's the incentive? To continue advancing down that what is going to be a slow, arduous process of medical research, trials, and
Mm,
things like that. So, like, maybe we hit all of those automation points we just said, like from trash to food and all of those things. But then does advancement in the scientific domain completely halt? And
mm.
does that actually stagnate things like our life expectancy? Very possible. So, I mean, it's definitely a risky yes, but here's my placard once again. No more work.
Right. I was approaching these wishes under the kind of impression that like we can test drive these and like if it really turns out that like it's just not working without the concept of work or not enough people are volunteering to do these things, then maybe we could wish to have it back. Like I said no to the work one, but with the gender one, I was like, if it turns out that like people are negatively affected by this, then someone can wish for it to come back. Like someone will probably feel strongly enough that they want that back. And maybe that could be the thing with the work thing too. That was kind of like my world building idea that you can wish to undo a wish. I don't know if that's canon or not, but that's the way I was kind of approaching some of these. So, um, yeah, I'm not opposed to it, and like, uh, I think depending on like the mechanism of it, which they don't say, they just say like, we'll get rid of work. They say they have some pamphlets for you to read, which I thought was funny because, so we'll see. But I said no to that one for the reasons we said. Another one that I wanted to highlight is this one I've been looking at it in the notes, it's been making me laugh every time I scroll past it. So it's time to talk about the person who wishes for a nemesis.
Yeah.
Um, they say whatever they do, their nemesis will also do, and they're doing this to make their life more exciting by creating a rival. Think of it, you can think of it in like the anime sense of a rival, or think of it in the like just someone who they're doing the same thing I'm doing and it's pushing me to be better at what I'm doing. And then they add in one extra note in here, which made me hit yes even faster, which is like they're gonna have this rival, they're gonna do the same thing. Their life is gonna be more exciting, and sometimes they'll fuck their rival. And I was like, you know what, buddy? Hell yeah, go just have fun with that. Once I say yes to this, I'm washing my hands of it. It might turn out poorly for you, but yeah, go for it. Have fun. Have sex with your rival.
um, I forgot about the have sex with your rival part, so I'm still reeling from that.
Yeah.
The I definitely was looking at this a little more of like anime protagonist lens when I was
Right.
encountered with this wish. And funnily enough, I just rewatched all of Naruto Shippuden, which is a Herculean task. And like I hadn't watched any of it since high school or like middle school. And so I mean I skipped some of the filler things, but by and large, I watched hundreds of Naruto episodes recently,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of very queer coded rivalries in that show. Like
Mm.
a lot of people openly ship Sasuke and Naruto as like this like closeted like or like unconsummated gay relationship inside of
Hmm.
everything else in the story. And I think in many people's headcanons, all of these things are true. They push you to get better, you fuck sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, you know, this felt like a relatively harmless wish for me, and I believe I just said yes. I agree with you that like this could go poorly, and I'm just gonna wash my hands of it. Like you got 10 years with this rival, and if it's going well, you can just keep going, and if it sucks in 10 years, you gotta grit your teeth and bear it until then,
Hmm.
and then try again with another wish. But if this is just I think one of my philosophies with the wishes is if it just impacts one person, um, generally speaking, it only really impacts one person in terms of the rivalry. Um, but maybe I guess in this case it's two people, and so like is that person's free will? Like, is there someone who's already out there in the world? Like, are we stripping
Yeah.
them
Or
of
are
their
are
agency?
they like creating a person to be the rival? They don't, they never, whenever they explain like, I want this person, this type of person in my life. They never are like, are we creating a person? Are we domineering an existing person to become your rival? Yeah.
There is one wish that's an exception to that where someone wants to change their boyfriend into someone else, basically.
Yeah.
So, like,
Mhm.
they explicitly acknowledge in that one example, at least, that an existing person is going to have all of their qualities like warped and molded by this wish, and now we basically have a different person who is in the same role that this previous boyfriend was in.
Yeah.
Most of the other wishes, I would agree with you, are sort of like left to the player's imagination. Like, is this just generated from scratch? And that
Mhm.
has its own existential conundrum. Like, is that it sort of like spiritual enslavement if you've been created for the sole purpose, like, and you don't really have agency to choose to be the rival of somebody? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of wiggle room on this one that could go wrong if we really examine it too deeply. But
Mhm.
I don't know if you're just gonna like I don't have a competitive bone in my body, so this doesn't appeal to me as a wish. Maybe
Yeah.
the last part, but the idea of someone like pushing you to be better by like one upping you all the time or like outperforming you, and you're like grr beck and fist at the sky. I have to get better. I have to go to the gym more. I have to read more books. Whatever it is. Um, I don't really find that motivating for me personally. Like I'm
Mm.
usually the type of person when I see someone succeed, I'm like, right on, good for you. You
Yeah.
worked hard for that. I didn't want to put 20,000 hours in the gym, so of course I didn't win that track meet or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
so I don't know. I think I'm inclined to say, yeah, go for it, have fun.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because I don't feel a competitiveness in like a rivalry sense, but I do feel that having people around you in the same pursuit, whatever it
Mhm,
is, that are really good at it
mhm.
does push me to want to be better at it.
Yeah.
And like using podcasting as an example, I have like close friends within our circle of like podcasters and stuff, yourself included, who
Mhm,
like when I hear you talk about something or other people in that, that I'm including in that, when I hear you all do the work and do it really well, I'm like, fuck, I got to up my game and like I want to be better at doing this, but it's not in a competitive rivalry sense, in the
mhm.
sense that like if they see some success that I'm not seeing, I'm not going to be like, god fucking damn it, I'm going to go like I'm going to have steam come out of my ears, and I'm going to go like have a weightlifting montage, whatever that looks like for a podcaster, I don't know, but uh
A lot of
like
USB cables going in and out.
yeah, it's just constantly plugging and unplugging microphones, and ring lights and shit. But I do get the thing where it's like if you see someone in the field doing really well, or like I've watched lessons from like other teachers where I'm like, that was a really fucking good lesson. I need to be better at making my own lessons back when
Mhm,
I was teaching more frequently than I do now.
mhm.
So there is that. That is real, but not in like the rivalry sense where I'm like, I kind of hate this person, but I also kind of want to fuck them. Like it's not like this person in this thing. It's not like that. It's not, I wouldn't call it a rivalry. It's just like, steel sharpens steel in a friendly kind of way.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to specifically two domains on as you're explaining. I'm thinking about when I was in college. I sort of had this egotistical drive to be the most knowledgeable person in the room about the topic at hand. So I would read everything thoroughly, annotate everything thoroughly, take my own notes, like write
Mm,
thoughts down, like read peripheral papers about books and like secondary source literature. And I would show up and like the intent was to like no matter what came up, I'm going to drop some like deep thought about the material here. And like it's
mm.
completely ego driven, but it made me better. Just the idea of like
Hmm.
having that like round audience of like there's all these like similar minds around the same topic, and it's like I'm gonna outsmart all you motherfuckers are gonna get class today. And I also think about when I used to play music more frequently than I do, especially when I was like in the learning stages of guitar, for example.
Hmm.
There were so many bands that I would play with, or just even musicians I would watch online who would do things that felt out of the realm of possibility. And that inspired me to be better just by copying them, just by
Yeah.
emulating them, and then stealing, creatively stealing some of their techniques, taking inspiration from songwriting styles or like sweep picking techniques or just interesting like key changes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, so I would agree with you that there's a sort of crucible that like helps sculpt you into something better. when you have people in a similar field who are perceivably like more adept than you. I I'm sure you're familiar with this adage about like if you ever find that you're the smartest person in a room, you need to find a bigger room.
Yeah.
And that's generally how I like to live my life is like surround myself with people that are like creatively better than me. And like
Mm,
that's not a self-deprecating comment. I'm not saying that I am not capable or not decent or whatever. There's some people who are just incredibly skilled or work incredibly hard or get incredibly lucky. And that's awesome.
mhm.
Very admirable stuff. I mean, I like you mentioned, some of our podcast friends, like everyone that we typically meet up with, like at PAX every year, that's a cluster of people who are, doing some of the coolest work in their field. And I feel so lucky that I get to be a part of like those hangouts. I always like come
Yeah.
away learning more from our friends than I do, like focusing on the games that we're there to report on.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, it sounds like if this person wants to have a rival and that makes their life more spicy and exciting, then sure. Taking inspiration is normal. I'm not sure that having like a rival is
Yeah.
a normal experience for a lot of people. But I there are such things. Just maybe for people who are more competitive than the two of us. So
And you know what I
yeah.
just thought of is there's this I haven't seen the show yet, but some of my friends invited me to a watch party of Heated
Oh,
Rivalry.
heated rivalry.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it, but I think that's definitionally what this person is wishing for.
Yes.
The dreamer should just push this person to watch that show and see if that's what they want to
See if that's what they
revisit
want.
in 10 years.
Yeah, it does sound I haven't watched Heated Rivalry either, but it does sound like that's what they're after. You mentioned the, swap the boyfriend wish. Did you say yes or no to that one?
I said no to that one. It feels across the board. My decision making logic is if it takes away someone else's agency or free will, then I'm going to probably say no to it.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. So what was there another one? I think we got time for, a couple more before we get into the last few ones. So, oh, I should mention, the one we were just talking about no work, during that wish, the person lets slip that the ceremony is going to be in a couple of days. So that
Mhm.
put extra pressure on me because at that point, my slingshot was not strong enough. Like I went up
Mm.
until probably the last couple days or maybe even the last practice day without having the strength to reach the final chalice.
Mhm.
So they let that slip. And I was like, fuck, I got to say yes to some of these questionable wishes. And my notes are a mess, completely out of order at this point. But I know that I said yes to some things that I might have been more comfortable saying no to because I knew I had to reach the chalice at the end. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I once again I didn't feel that impending pressure, and I honestly don't know that I picked up on the like let slip thing because in my playthrough, my braid or sling was long enough by the final
Mm,
day. It felt like again not knowing that you could mess that up too. It felt
yeah.
like that was just a natural sequence that throughout I think it's maybe like 5 days over the course of the game or something of that effect.
Hmm.
It just felt like each day it was just a slow linear progression, and then right before the final day, of course you can hit the chalice. I didn't
Oh,
think twice about that. So that totally recontextualizes. I think if I was in your mindset, that pressure would have ramped up considerably as well.
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I have two quick ones. One that ties to our work conversation, and then one
Hmm.
that's just totally unrelated. That I think we could close out at least the broad questions on
Yeah.
from my part.
Right.
The one that ties to the work thing is someone wishes to never have to sleep again. They lament
Yeah.
the fact that We waste like a third of our lives being asleep as our bodies are recovering. And think about all we could get done while people are sleeping. Like if I still have to work or whatever, I'm going to do that while everyone else is asleep. That way I can enjoy the day with all the people when they're awake. Or like
Mhm.
if I like just all of the lost hours that would accumulate. What if your life was 33% longer in terms of your waking experience of it?
Mhm.
And I already mentioned I don't really put much stock in interpreting dreams, so like that's not a big loss for me. If I could biologically eliminate my need for sleep, I think I would say yes. It's I kind of like sleep. As weird as that sounds, that might even be obvious. Like I just enjoy taking naps and stuff. Like it's just kind of a pleasant thing to lay in bed.
Mhm.
Um, and Especially when you're like snuggling with your cat on a Saturday morning or something, like it's cold outside and your bed's all warm. Like that's lovely. And I can
Mhm.
imagine it could get lonely at night after a point in time. Like there was probably a threshold at which like, all right, I gotta just sit there and twiddle my thumbs for 8 hours waiting on everyone else. I've caught up on all my YouTube videos. I've listened to all my podcasts. I've read all the books in my house. Everything's
Mhm.
closed because the rest of the world is, moving on. Like I can't go to the library and get more books.
Right.
So it's like there is a threshold at which I think this wish would probably suck. But generally, I think yes. No more sleep.
This
No more work.
no more work, no more sleep, just playing. This feels like a kind of like a light version of the, Wish to be Immortal, where,
Hmm.
like, it seems cool at first, but, like, by, year 300, you're gonna be like, "Well, everyone I love is dead, so this fucking sucks."
Hmm.
Um, this feels a little bit like that. Again, a lighter version of it, because this person will presumably still have, like, a normal lifespan, and, they don't I think one of the things in it, at least I'm assuming, is they remove the biological need for sleep. So, like, not only will they not get sleep deprived, but like sleep is healthy for your brain, and their brains are just fine without sleep now.
Hmm.
I This was one where I was like, I gotta say yes to some people. I'm saying yes to this. A lot of people wish for it, sure. Like it's one person who doesn't sleep. How much could they really fuck things up? Like at a certain point, this feels like it doesn't affect other people. And if it's only affecting you, and it seems like it might be fine, I'll probably say yes. And if it doesn't turn out to be fine, well, you shouldn't have wished for it, I guess. Like that's kind of where I'm at. It's a common enough wish that like all of us with especially all of us with creative pursuits and also full-time jobs that don't allow us to do that some days like I'll finish work, I'll get home from work and I'll exercise, I'll eat dinner, and when all of that's over and it's time for me to do my creative stuff, I don't have the energy for it. And then it's like, well, I'm going to spend my evening scrolling through YouTube shorts because that's low energy, low engagement, just like a way to pass the time until it's time to go to bed because I don't have the energy for anything else. Removing that, like remove it, like eventually I'll get over that, and then it'd be like I have this time when I would be sleeping, I can do my creative stuff. But I think you're right. After a while, it probably would suck to because they don't wish for like to remove the need to sleep. They wish to never sleep again. So I don't
Hmm.
think they can sleep if they want to, which if you're removing the biological need for sleep, but I can sleep if I want to, then that's much more attractive, I think.
Yeah, and from what little I know about like sleep research, like we're assuming that things like cortisol will be flushed out automatically in this person's brain,
Right.
and that their dopaminergic like circadian rhythm relationship is going to reset at the same pace every day. Like typically on the other end of sleep, you wake up with like the analogy that I've heard used that I think works really well is it's like a lemon when you wake up, like a full lemon, and then if you like wake up and grab your phone, you're like squeezing the heck out of it, and then for the rest of the day, you are left with a half squeezed lemon to like get your little dopamine boost.
Hmm.
If your brain isn't naturally resetting every day with that full lemon, like is that going to have negative consequences for mental health over time?
Yeah.
Like I would probably imagine yes. Um, and similarly, I've had various diagnoses throughout my life that are related to mental health, and I'm wondering, without sleep, do those amplify and like sort of snowball over time? Because anyone who's having like an overly anxious or overly depressed day or something of that effect would know is that sleep usually resets those emotions too.
Mm.
It's, it chronic depression, let's say, can persist over the course of several days, regardless of the sleep cycle. But like for some people, it's enough to sleep and then you wake up in a little bit of a better mood, or like, it's a new day. I have a new chance at, having a better mental health outcome today.
Yeah.
I That's not really explored here, but I think you have to kind of take it for granted. Like that stuff is all going to be neutralized and taken care of, and I don't know.
Right.
It definitely is a risky wish.
We're definitely making assumptions with a lot of these wishes that like we can hand wave away some of this stuff, even if it's not. I feel like if this was if this were a real situation and I got to go make a wish, I would have to make sure I don't like include any monkey's paw possibility
Mhm,
in these wishes. Like I need to account for everything. And the dreamer would probably tell me like, "Hey man, you gotta like, there's people in the line. You gotta keep it moving."
mhm.
Like the like the Santa Claus workers in the Christmas Story where they're yelling at the kid, "You're holding up the line." Like that would be me up there. So yeah. Well, you said there was a second one. What was the other one?
Yeah, the last one that I wanted to make sure we talked about, at least from my list, is, no more religion.
Hmm.
Um, I'm noticing, at least the way that these notes were taken, a lot of mine come down to three-word slogans of "No more blank." But, anyway, I wanna hear your thoughts on this one first, and then
Uh-huh.
I'll close off with how I, answered this one.
Okay, so I said no to this person because this is a very clear one where it's like, if they wish to remove all of the harm that religion does, because religion sure does seem to be the basis of a lot of harm that people bring unto others, then I would have been like, hell yeah, absolutely. But that's not what they wished for. They didn't wish for taking away the bad things. I think that religion brings a lot of really good purpose to a lot of people's life, and I don't want to take that away from them. So it's both saying yes to this. It's not that you're saying that you're okay with the bad things, but you're allowing the bad things to persist. And if you say no, you're taking away purpose and a valuable part of identity for a lot of people. So that's why I said no.
Yeah, I think those are all valid points. I see a question or a wish like this, and it brings me back to my like post-Christian, um, edgy atheist days when I was in my
Hmm.
like late teens, and
Yeah.
for many years, I think if you had asked me, would have said some version of two things, like I'm like an agnostic atheist or even an anti-theist. And anti-theism for the uninitiated is basically the idea that religious belief, or at least organized religion, where you believe that you know what, not only that God exists, but what God wants for the world, and how
Hmm.
people should behave in accordance with that. Like that is objectively immoral, evil, like, and just wrong.
Mm.
And I'm generally not a fan of religion. Like I still to this day don't believe in any particular sect, creed, faith. But I would echo your sentiment that I've seen the meaning that it can provide people, particularly in terms of purpose, and sense of community. Now, do I believe that that can only be derived from religion? And like, absolutely not.
Hmm.
And I do wish that the person making the wish had maybe added some caveats into this, like you mentioned, take away the harm that religion does. Sure, you can have your like cool little belief in the flying spaghetti monster or whatever. You're not harming anyone. Like, awesome. But my issue with religion is typically the way that it's used as like a cudgel, and also a sense of like moral superiority above other people.
Hmm.
Um, and Having personally experienced many of the harms and bared witness over and over and over to the harms of organized religion, not a fan. And I do I do kind of yearn for a world where religious belief is, as we mentioned with gender, like irrelevant, like doesn't actually
Yeah.
impact me, or like I'll see a church and I'm like, oh, there's another building, and like right next to an office building, same sort of impact, like if it
Hmm.
brings you personal meaning, and like almost in the way that some religious homophobes would say, like, like keep your business in the bedroom. Like, I don't want to know about your sex life, like seeing you hold hands with a same sex partner, like, like that
Hmm.
sort of thing. If people just, kept it to themselves, cool. But because it's such a socially oppressive force, generally speaking, I would prefer religion to be gone.
I
No
think
more
that it
religion.
I think that it is really similar to the no more gender thing where like it's easy to imagine like a world where no one cared about it or no one used it as like a crutch to fall back on to support their bigoted beliefs
Mhm.
because there are a lot of people who will just use this as like this is the foundation for why I believe that same-sex marriage should be illegal, and not only illegal, like that, same-sex couples should go to jail or something like that. Like there are people who will be like, and I believe it because of this very established thing.
Mhm.
But then like the no more gender thing where you brought up the nuance to it. The nuance to it for me is that there are a lot of people who like their faith is a foundation for doing good in the world. Like there are a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
Um and and so it's just not as easy for me to just say no, get it out of here. I do think that like if someone is wired like that, I would like to think they would find meaning in something else that would still provide the same result. But are we creating religion again just in a different way? I don't know. So yeah, that's why I said no to this one. Although like similar with a lot of these, like I understand, would it be a net positive? I don't know, maybe to remove all the harm that's being done in religion's name. So I get that. So there are a lot more wishes. We've probably talked about like half of them, maybe. There are a lot more. There's a bunch that are like, there's a bunch that are goofy. There's a bunch that are like pretty serious. There's a lot that like we could continue to have like we could have like 10, 15 minute conversations about basically any of these
Mhm.
because of how they tie into personal experience, they tie into belief systems and things like that. These wishes are really good. And then like one of the things I like about it is they'll get you on a run of like 3 or 4 like pretty serious, pretty involved wishes in a row where you really have to think and you're like, am I compromising my beliefs by saying yes to this? And you go through a bunch of those. Then they'll hit you with just a real funny one sometimes just to kind of cut the tension of it a little bit. It's really well done in here. But I think that we should move on and talk about the final wish and the end of the game. So the final wish in Many Nights a Whisper is from a surprise source. It is the dreamer's mom comes to the altar to give a wish. She's breaking protocol by like knowing who the dreamer is, I guess. And you get the opportunity to break protocol and talk to her. You are not allowed as the dreamer to talk to the person giving the wish. So your mom comes up to the altar. She says that your name is Itziar. That's your name. You're not the dreamer. You have a name. Um, and she says she sent you to the temple when you were very young because she was in a bad place. Basically, she offered up her child for adoption at this monastery. And she offers her braid, and she gives you the opportunity to make a wish of your own. Should you choose to talk? Like, I think you have an option during this
Mhm.
to just stay silent and not say anything at all,
Yep.
which is that it is what by the rules the dreamer should do is just stay silent. But I really don't see anyone playing this game and just being like, nope, got to follow the rules here. Sorry, mom. Um, so yeah, the dreamer, should you choose to do this and make your own wish, the dreamer chooses to forgive your mom for because she feels very guilty about leaving you there and not being there for you throughout your life. And now you're in this fucked up position as the dreamer where the fate of all this stuff hangs in your hands. Like she feels bad about all of this, and the dreamer wishes to forgive her. And I think this is really interesting. She asks you after you forgive her, she asks, "How could you grow up to be someone like this? How could you grow up to be such a good person? You got a wish. You're going to wish to forgive me. How did this happen? How could you grow up like this? And forgive me for all these ways that she feels that she's wronged you." And to have this as the last one right before the ceremony, I think is really powerful. And there's some things I'm leaving unsaid because I want to leave room for you to say things too here, Flora. It's a really good way to bring the wishes to an end.
Yeah, I actually screenshotted this final wish sequence. I'm looking over the options now because, to be honest, I don't remember what I did, what I chose. You
Mm.
were given 6 options,
Oh,
and
okay.
I actually think, just to comment on the point you made about like choosing to forgive mom, the way that it's phrased, and I'll go through all 6 of these briefly, but the way it's
Yeah.
phrased, the forgiveness of mom is, "I forgive my mom. I want her to live without regrets." Doesn't
Yes.
that trample on our free will distinction a little bit? Like, you're gonna, like, warp her ability to see herself, like, maybe that's in her best interest, and maybe she would consent to that, but, like, it's just an interesting wrinkle to the whole thing, like, it's a
Mm.
positive shaped, outcome in terms of free will, but does that person still have agency? Um, so the 6 options real quick are: first one, I wanna find a higher purpose after the ceremony. The second one
Okay.
is, I want to remain the dreamer forever. The
Okay.
third is, I forgive my mom. The fourth is, I want my mentor to write a kick-ass album. The fifth one is, I can't possibly accept this. It doesn't feel right, ellipsis. And then finally is a parenthetical that says, remain silent, don't acknowledge her. It feels really
Okay.
cold-hearted to not acknowledge her. Actually, the playthrough that I watched in preparation for this discussion, the person playing stayed silent, and I was like, "Ouch, I
Wow.
don't think I did
Yeah.
that."
Wow.
Um,
No, there's no way.
it's relatively noble that your intuition was to forgive mom. I I don't know if that's what I chose or if I chose the first one, which is, I want to find a higher purpose after the ceremony. Because throughout this game, whether it's in the dream sequences, the narration, or even in dialogue between the dreamer and the mentor, the dreamer character, Itzair, has been like constantly wrestling with this, like, what is my purpose after this? Like we've accustomed ourselves to the dilemma of, like, if I get this shot, everything's great. If I miss it, it's not the end of the world, even though it's disappointing and whatever.
Mhm.
But like, life is going to carry on either way. Um, there's a lot of questioning about, who am I after this? And the mentor already has it figured out. Like, the mentor is like, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna like move here. I'm gonna eat
Uh-huh.
this food. I'm gonna write this album. But the
Mhm.
dreamer seemingly doesn't have much of a direction, and so there's like this sort of existential like abyss in front of them.
Yeah.
And I think that if I were to answer this right now, especially based on our conversation, I'm inclined to pick that one. Like, find purpose for the dreamer after all this. One quote unquote selfish thing that only impacts the dreamer and is something that they've been wrestling with under the pressure the entire game. It
Mhm.
feels like thematically appropriate, like a piece of closure that this character, as mom just says, how could you be such a good person? Like, it, they deserve some sort of closure, I think.
Yeah, that's what
Like,
I was gonna say.
we
Yeah.
all sort of have had this experience, I expect, where you work really hard on something, you achieve it, and then it's over, and you're just like, your stomach sinks. Like, what do I do now? That was me
Yeah.
when I graduated college. Like, when I got my 2 bachelor's degrees, I was like, I've been in school for my entire life. What do I do?
Mhm.
Neurotically go to grad school now, you know?
Yeah.
And as I was in grad school having my quarter life crisis, I was like, okay, I think I know how to pivot out of this now. It
Mhm.
is tough to dedicate yourself to something for such a long time and then lose that identity. Like,
Yeah.
it's always going to be a part of your past, that identity, but it's no longer an active thing in your life. I don't know. I think the dreamer character does deserve her own wish by the end.
Yeah. That's 100% true. The dreamer does deserve something, out of this, and if that's just the knowledge that, like, they will figure it out, like, that's good.
Mhm.
And because you can definitely empathize with, like you said, the idea that, yeah, like, I'm talking through this and I'm, like, becoming more and more okay with, like, what happens after this, but that's it feels incomplete. So, like, this would be a way to just be like, yes, I have I have the wish on my side. I will guaranteed find a purpose, after this. And thank you for bringing up the 6 choices. I forgot about that. I think I clicked on forgiving mom pretty quickly.
I also just, it occurred to me, based on our prior discussion about, like, if you miss the shot, then these things can never come true, or
Oh
will never come
god.
true. Like,
Yeah.
what if it's like, I want to find purpose in my life, or I want to forgive my mom, or whatever, and then just, no, you missed the shot.
Yeah.
I think that sounds abysmal. That's actually a high risk wish right there.
Oh yeah, you will never find purpose and your mom will well, she won't live without regret. things will stay the same for her, I guess. I was like, what if it doubles her regrets? That would suck. But no, I think it'll just stay the same. I chose to forgive mom. And I think that this comes from a little bit of family experience. And I'm not going to say too much here, but I do have someone in my family who had to give up a child for adoption
Ooh,
because they were just in a place where they couldn't care for the kid.
yeah.
Um, and I know that really, really broke them up inside. And it has to
Mm,
be something that they think about probably to this day, even though I
yeah.
think that they may have reconnected in some way, however minor, I'm not positive. But that's got to be something that like you will never not think about. So you can empathize with mom here. The relief that she has that like you turned out to be a good person here, but also the regrets and all of those things that you've lived with. So that was like it seemed like the right choice, I guess, unselfishly, because I do think that the dreamer wishing for a purpose or the knowledge that they will have a purpose, that's also the right choice,
Mhm,
a right choice. This choice with the mom felt, I don't know, it just felt like a nice thing that you could do because you have the power to do this.
mhm.
Uh, you could do this because it would be one thing if she came up and she was like, yeah, it's fun to see you up here, but I don't, I had a lot of fun while you were gone. Like she's real broken up about this. So it felt like a right thing to do.
Mhm.
So that is the conversation with mom. And then you move on to the final conversation with the mentor. The mentor is just like so supportive. By the way, if anyone chose the wish to have their mentor write a kick-ass album, I guess I would understand that too, because the mentor seems pretty chill.
Yeah.
You want the mentor to have fun after all this is over too. But so they say tomorrow's the ceremony, and they one more time they say no matter what happens, they love you and they're proud of you.
Mhm,
Again, the type of support that someone who has the fate of the world hanging on one thing they have to do tomorrow, they need that kind of support.
mhm,
Um, I didn't mention this before. I thought about mentioning it in the non spoiler part, but you can't save scum this. Once
mhm,
you go past this point, it deletes your save data. So you have to finish the ceremony and you won't be able to load again. The mentor tells you about this. And they tell you to treasure your outcome. No matter what happens, it is part of your story. This is what I'm saying now. It's part of your story. And obsessing over a mistake or obsessing over a victory, neither of those will do you good.
mhm.
So do your best and then roll with what happens afterwards, which I think is the types of, I get like the types of decisions. If you find yourself in a kind of like supporting role for someone who's doing a big thing and they need support, part of it is like I'm thinking of like when I was a kid and I played sports, like my parents always told me like uh no matter what happens, like I hope you enjoy playing it. I hope you have fun. That's the most important part. And like if you lose, then like there's going to be more like you can, life goes on, you'll play another game. If you strike out, you'll go up to hit again, like that kind of thing. That's the kind of support that I think is really helpful to kind of like whoever's in that position, they know the pressure that they're under. They don't need you to add to it by being like, hey man, it's an important shot you got tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, I know it's important. Shut up. The mentor does the right thing here by just kind of being like, I love you. I'm proud of you. It almost doesn't matter what happens tomorrow. Do your best, try to make it, but like life goes on. It'll be okay either way. And that's the kind of advice that I guess a sports game is like, it's not the best analogy because there are more games. There's not going to be more shots for the dreamer. What if this is the championship game? If you lose, the season's over, like that sort of thing. Maybe a better analogy, but the mentor is just the kind of support that we all need when we have situations like this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually resonated with the sports example, even though I'm not much of a sports person. I was forced to play them for 14 years. My dad was a coach, and what little agency he was able to enforce with his iron fist, it was in the sports and
Mm,
masculinity domain. We see how that's turned out. But I'll never forget one of my football teams growing up won our regional championship, which was it's like several degrees up the ladder. And there was a game where we were going against the previous division champs, and we beat them. Ow, my cat just scratched me. um, he wants attention. We beat them, and our coach had us like huddle after the game. He would always do this to like, kind of like debrief us and whatever. He yelled
Mhm.
at us for playing sloppily. Like he was
Mm.
very upset at us when we just won. And I'll never forget that. Like that was the sort of mentality that I was exposed to with sports several times where like winning isn't good enough.
Mhm.
So I couldn't agree more that the mentor's advice here is the kind of advice that develops a healthy person and develops a person's healthy relationship with things like pressure. So,
Mhm.
even though that wasn't my experience growing up, I'm very glad that the dreamer has this mentor figure. They seem fantastic in terms of their influence.
So you go into the final ceremony, and the mentor tells you about this ahead of time or like hints at it. But we talked about how the game is really beautiful. It's very well lit. It's sunny. The weather's perfect. Probably someone wished for perfect weather. That's my guess. But maybe that's why there's no rain. So the night of the ceremony, it's at night and it's all dark. And the first time I played, I must have just not internalized when this was hinted, and it took me by surprise how dark it was. The chalices are lit up, but a lot of those kind of like points of like reference points for your shot, you can't see those anymore. So you have to make sure that you have things that will still work in the dark when you go up for the final shot. Um, the sky in the final ceremony has no moon because someone wished for the moon to go away, which is a great touch. And one final great touch, when you go to take the final shot, when you pull back on the string, the music cuts. It's silent and it's so intimidating when it cuts. It must, I don't know if this is the thing that psyched me out, but perfect touch for them to cut the music out there. So I missed the shot. Both times I played this game, I missed the
Oof.
shot. The first time I missed it way the fuck off to the side because I didn't know it was going to be dark. And like my reference point that I'd been practicing with, because I made like 30 fucking shots in a row in practice, I couldn't see it in the dark anymore. And I missed it way off to the left. The second time, I was pretty on target with the shot, but I shot it too far and it flew over the chalice.
Oh,
Too many wishes, I guess. And so, before we talk about the result of this, did you make the shot?
no.
Ooh, okay.
I Similarly to you, the reference points that I was using were suddenly inaccessible to me at night.
Mm,
And you earlier in the discussion mentioned that you practiced quite a bit and you just said you landed like 30 shots. I think I
yeah.
did it like 2 or 3 times once I finally hit it. And I was like, can I replicate this? Okay, this is where I need the dreamer's arm to be. And then like,
Hmm.
how long do I need to hold this button down before I release it? Okay, so it's this and this. Got it. I'll go there. Like, I'm feeling a little pressure, a little sweaty hands, but I practiced like 3 times.
Okay.
So I imagine with all of that practice, missing the shot hits even harder, but I was gutted because I just did 100% playthrough of this whole thing. Like I had gone out of my way to get everything, and I wasn't paying attention to how many achievements were left, but somewhere in my head was thinking that there would be an achievement tied to getting this, and I was like, no, I'm gonna have to replay this whole thing for that one achievement. That was luckily not the case. But yeah, I unfortunately am inaccurate.
Yeah. So when you shoot it, if you shoot it kind of over the chalice, but it's like close enough, it will still light the chalice because that happened in practice a lot
Mm.
when I was practicing. And both times I played, both playthroughs, I practiced a lot. Like I wouldn't go to the final ceremony until I made like 20 in a row. Like real like basketball practice, like shooting drills type shit. And so like that happened and I was like, okay, even if I overshoot it a little bit, it will still light. And I just overshot it a little bit more than that. And so I saw it and it's like perfectly in line. And I'm like, because I missed the first time, I'm like, finally, yes, I did it. And still missed. And so the initial thought is, fuck, how did I miss? Like I practiced so hard and I'm like upset that I missed. And then it's like the game's kind of coaching through the rest of through the whole playthrough leading up to that has been getting you ready for what if you miss? Like, okay, so Dave, did you internalize the lessons that the mentor taught? And like for the first 10 seconds, the answer was no, absolutely not. I'm pissed that I missed the shot. And then the way this game ends, if you miss, is really interesting to kind of recenter you on that lesson. That idea of like, what happens after this if you miss? Like, all those things that I said yes to, gender is still relevant in my world. The, what else did I say yes to? Like cigarettes, they're not healthy, they're still bad. All of those things I said yes to out the window, and they'll never happen if we're taking this at its word. So, I don't know. Did you fall back on the teachings of the mentor or like personal beliefs that kind of line up with that? Or were you pissed and disappointed when you missed too?
I think this is a sort of both and for me.
Yeah.
Where one thing that is notable to me about the result of missing the shot is the sort of narration that you're given. Like your character, like palpably feels that pressure dissipate, and like everything is going to be okay, and like you can move on. It's a new chapter. Like we've talked at length in this discussion about how that pressure can like really intensify someone's stress, anxiety, worry, those sorts of things. Even in this case, sense of like existential purpose. um, Regardless, I think because the dreamer's reaction was sort of to be at peace with it, I guess I was at peace with it. But like you said, like in this, I had a similar feeling, like back when people wore corded headphones.
Mm.
You get it yanked out of your ear unexpectedly, like you're at the
Hmm.
gym and it gets yanked out on a machine, and you just have like this blinding rage for a split second. I think that's about the extent of what I felt, but in terms of disappointment, I was like, fuck! And then I was like able to move on. It was
Yeah.
just one big fuck.
Fair enough. Yeah. For me, it was more like I guess like grasping for, I've been cheated somehow. Like
Yeah.
I practiced, I made 30 in a row in practice. Like, how did this happen? Especially the
Yeah.
second time. And it just, I don't know. Like, I think that this is brilliant that the game set me up for this, told me the things. And then it's like, it's just like it is in real life. It's like, it's up to me to actually like live that, you know, it's all well and good to like before things are real to be like, I'm okay no matter what happens. I don't need to win the championship game, or I don't need to win this contest, or I don't need this job interview to go well. I'll try it. I'll see what happens. And if it goes well, it goes well. And if it doesn't, then whatever. And then like if it doesn't go well, you're like the natural thing to do is to be disappointed in the
Mhm.
outcome and start reaching for like, you know, reasons. So in this one, it's like, I swear I had everything lined up the same. Everything was the same. Everything was the same. And it's like, man, the game mechanics didn't cheat you here. Like you just missed. And that happens. And so as a result, I don't really know what happens when you make the shot. Like I know generally it's celebratory, but it's
Mhm.
not like fuck yeah, hoorah celebration. It's like, congratulations, we did it. Don't get a big head. Life goes on after this, just the same as the ending when you miss the shot, which I'm intimately familiar with now. uh, the dreamer is just like, they're not really disappointed. They they seem like, I mean, they might be disappointed a little bit, but it's like their overwhelming dominant emotion is they're happy that it's over and they're free. They can go live a normal life after this. The text says, 10 years of efforts end in a sorry spectacle, yet a feeling creeps in between your trembling bones. You're done. It's over. You're free. And so like the weight of all of this, the weight of the role has been lifted away from you, and you're free to pursue whatever comes after this. You've done your part. And yeah, it sucks that you missed, but life goes on.
Yeah, as disappointing as it is, like when you have hopes for some of these wishes to come true, especially some of the more pro-social ones, like again, we'll just use the example of world hunger, let's say.
Yeah.
It's natural to feel disappointed, but like you mentioned the weight being lifted off the shoulder. I'm going to use a different version of weight, like waiting in terms of time.
Mm.
Waiting for something to begin that is like high stress, high pressure is the worst part of the thing, in my experience.
Mm.
Like when I used
Mm-hmm.
to compete in martial arts, or if I'm going into a job interview, or I'm about to go on a first date with someone that I really like, or whatever it is, the time leading up to the beginning of that, it's really easy to give into panic, and you start sweating and you're just like, oh no, this is awful, just anxiety spirals. And then you start the thing and like time goes away. I notice this anytime I play a concert. Like I don't really get nervous
Yeah.
anymore when I do things in front of an audience. But if I feel any flicker of anxiety, it's like the moment before I step up on stage. As soon as I start playing, all that anxiety goes away. And, I just do the thing I'm there to do, which is have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can totally relate to the dreamer's reaction of just relief here. Like everything, 10 years of waiting for this one thing is, I can't stress enough, like an impossible amount of time to fathom in like a chunk. And yeah, I mean, when you do make it, like I've watched it on YouTube, but I haven't spoken with many people who have made the shot. It seems incredibly rare for some reason.
Oh,
Um,
it's actually like you and I are the only people I know that missed the shot. I've talked to like 10
really?
other people who all made the shot. And it's like, I'm kind of surprised that you missed it too, because I felt like I was just fucking up over here. I'm the only one who can't do it.
So I know I'm reaching for some copium here, but the fact that it switches from daytime the entire game to nighttime for the ceremony, if I want to make any excuse, it's that. That's what messed me up. Like we were talking about
Yeah.
how our reference points changed. Like there
Hmm.
was never a moment to practice at night with the sling.
Right.
And so everything you're practicing for in theory is setting you up for this shot, but actually there's like a bait and switch. The rug gets pulled out from under you, and of course, because like the unexpected like shift in like perspective with the like day night cycle, my hands would be sweating too. It's like, oh no, I
Hmm.
don't actually feel as prepared as I expected to,
Yeah.
despite all of the preparation.
Yeah. There's some situations in real life where I'll like not prepare as much as I probably should because I
Mhm.
feel like I've got it. Like I'll use job interviews just as an example. I'm like pretty good in a job interview. I don't get that nervous. I'm people, I'm on this show talking so much. Like I'm pretty good at just talking.
Mhm.
Um and so sometimes I'll go into a job interview and just kind of like lean on that a little bit more than maybe I should. And then it will start and I'll be like, fuck, I should have prepared more than this. Like I'm good at talking, but what am I saying? Like that
Mhm.
sort of thing. And that's kind of how I felt when the uh switch happened the second time. Like I knew it was going to be night. And the mentor does say something to hint that like your normal reference points might not all be there during the ceremony. But it still switched, and I was like, I got up there and I was like, I should have practiced a few more times. I should have really locked this down, even though there's no way I could have. But I still got that feeling.
Mhm.
So I think it's awesome that they switch it tonight, and it's really striking. Like the visuals of it are like really cool. And again, the moment when the music cuts away and it's like, all right, here we are, everyone's holding their breath,
Mhm.
type of thing is super cool. I love the last ceremony, and I almost respect this game more after I stopped being mad. I
Mhm.
respect it more because I missed, like
Yeah.
in a sort of weird sort of way. Like I think if I had just been coolly like, yeah, bang, 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 bang in practice, go up for the ceremony, boom, swish. And then it's like that was many nights a whisper. But because I missed twice, I've sat and thought about this shit so much more than maybe I would have if I made the shot. And I really think they pull all of this off. Like, I missed the shot. And then the game is like, Dave, do you remember what the mentor told you? He still loves you. And I'm like, yeah, he does. It's okay. Life goes on.
Yeah, I actually that makes me wonder since apparently you know so many people who have made the shot, it makes me wonder how the game may have stuck with them in a different way.
Mhm.
Because there, as mentioned earlier in the episode, we were talking about how this game is sort of like an open-ended game in terms of interpretation and question asking and various
Mhm.
other elements. Um, by missing the shot, it is once again a kind of open-endedness where like it gives me a like a lack of closure to the story.
Mhm.
Even though it is its own form of closure, there's some part of me that like is tempted. I don't know if this is gamer brained or what, tempted to go back and replay it to get the shot right. You know, like
Mhm.
I don't often replay games in you know quick intervals. It usually takes me several years to want to revisit something. And in this case, I think this game will like I'll probably wait a few years, but probably will revisit it. But if I had hit the shot first try, I don't think I would have that interest to go back. Like
Yeah.
because I can sort of imagine what's going to happen if you fail. But like, okay, I did all the things you could possibly do in this game. I got all the achievements. I got the shot correctly. You know, I
Mhm.
thought about all the philosophical themes. I got everything I can out of this. But no, I haven't really rinsed the experience because there's this other like sort of like unfinished quest in my head.
Yeah.
And therefore it's made me like contemplate the ending and contemplate the nature of some of the decisions and the consequences therein a lot more than I might have otherwise.
Yeah. I agree. And I think I feel that pull to play it again and try and make the shot, but I've done it twice now and I've missed twice. Like I kind of feel like it's some the game or some higher power telling me, Dave, you don't like you got to let it go. You got to listen to the mentor and you got to move on with things. You can't just keep replaying this in perpetuity until you make the shot. Like what you can just watch the end on YouTube.
I will say though, you have another alternative here, which is to grow your hair out, braid it, and offer it to the
Yes.
dreamer, and your wish could be, "I'll make the shot." So consider that.
Yes. I need to find local dreamers near me. Craigslist,
So
missed connections.
I'm gonna open up a news article later. It's gonna say in one advertisement, "Hot single moms" right underneath, "Dreamers near you." You
Yeah,
know,
dreamers needed. I will put up an ad on my local Craigslist. 38-year-old male looking for dreamer to make my wishes come true. And I will probably get a bunch of hits on that from not the right types of dreamers.
yeah, you got to report back on the Patreon and post some of the emails you get.
Yeah, yeah. We'll vlog it. We'll turn it into content, baby. So this game's super interesting, and I'm really happy with the types of conversation, the different avenues that we went down in the spoiler section here, and reflections on failure at the
Yeah.
end. And it's not often that a game will kind of number one allow you to fail, but number two make you sit with it and not not let you reload the save right before the end or something like that. Like there's a lot of games that end in failure for characters or like bad endings or unsatisfying endings for whatever reason, but they're not often the direct result of me fucking something up as the player. And I think that that's super interesting, and it's led to a lot of like really fun reflection, which we talked a long time ago about how this game may be an inch wide, but it's a mile deep. And this is like actual sitting here thinking about like my reaction to failure and like how do I keep going and stuff like that. Like it's not serious. It's just a game. But anytime it makes me really think about like, why am I reacting this way? Like, you really need that badly to make the shot? Do we remember what we were taught? Did we actually internalize that? And the answer is like kind of not all the way though. Like I'm still gonna be pissed. If I play this game a third time and miss again, I'll be just as pissed. Like just throw your arms up and be like, what the fuck? Come on, universe, give me a bone. But yeah, this super interesting game, and it's been a really fun conversation going through it.
I got one last thing that it's been sitting on my mind the whole conversation, and it's a little
Yeah, let's hear it.
corny, but I wanted to ask, just no preparation here. If you dropped your braid through the wall, through the glory hole, what would you wish for?
Ooh, that's tough. I would probably wish for something like really big, Like, are you allowed to like wish to end all, hardship and discrimination and, stuff like that? Are you allowed to end, are you allowed to wish to end all injustice in the world? Like, that seems too big for the scope of this, but is it? Like, I would probably go for something like that. I wouldn't wish for something selfish. And I'm not just saying that to make myself sound good. I think I would take the shot at just like, can we have world peace, or can we end injustice or something like that? Just
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be really hard if I'm going to go down to like a small scale. I think it'd be really hard to pick one because there's a bunch of small scale things that I could wish for, like
Hmm.
to wish for financial stability, to wish for like good health for me and the people that I love and stuff like that. Like how could you pick one of those?
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I would try and go for a bigger scale thing.
Yeah. This is when it occurred to me to ask you this. It put me in the headspace of what we talked a lot about the pressure the dreamer feels, but the wishers probably have a lot of like they get one, and
Yeah.
it as you just revealed, it's increasingly complex the more you think about it. Like there are plenty of small scale personal things I'd love to wish for. Like I'd love for my mom to never have to work again and to be taken care of for the rest of her life. Like that'd be
Hmm.
awesome. I also would love to end injustice. I mean, the big thing that comes to mind for me is like environmental protections. So I might be
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
along that line, but you could throw that under the banner of injustice, like climate justice.
Hmm.
It's really hard to parse what to wish for. And so in my head, I'm kind of like rolling my eyes at some of these people wishing to like change their boyfriend or whatever. Like,
To remove the souls from animals. Like, come on, you could wish for something greater and have the same effect.
yeah, but when it comes down to it, like if I'm dropping my braid through the wall, like I want it to count and I want it to really mean something. And whether that's
Yeah.
meaning something to me personally, selfishly, or whether it's more of a grandiloquent pro-social gesture. But yeah, it's a
Do
tough
you,
thing, and it just it occurred to me because like I think when you have the pressure to boil everything down to one, it becomes a lot more complicated. There's 100 different
yeah.
wishes I could go for, but to pick one is really difficult.
Or at the very least one every 10 years. Like, but I don't think everyone gets a wish every time.
Probably not.
There's more than 15 people or 20 people living in this world. So, yeah, maybe it is your one shot at a wish. And maybe there's a bunch of people who don't get to wish at all.
Yeah.
And that makes those really selfish wishes even worse because it's like, you probably know people who could use the wish and you're going to wish to have a pink cat, you motherfucker. Come on.
I mean, I'm still gonna hold out hope that the pink cat
Yeah.
is a good
I don't think
decision.
I'm going to convince you with the pink cat one, but yeah, it is tough, tough on everybody here. And I think that that is something that this game wants us to think about is, the pressure and kind of the injustice of, putting this all on the dreamer, of course, but
Yeah.
I think a little bit harder, but, it's a lot of pressure on the people making the wishes too, for sure. So, um, Flora, good times, going through many nights of Whisper. Thank you for being here and talking through this stuff with me. It's been a great time, as I knew it would be.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's strange to be able to pull, at least an hour more of discussion out than the game actually
Hmm.
ran. But somehow we managed to and yet not cover everything we could discuss here. So yeah, it's been a great time.
Yeah, we've got about 2 hours, of extra wish conversation should we, wish for it. But I'm not surprised, because you and I tend to do long podcasts when we get together for it. But this game does have so much, on the plate for you to discuss. So, not surprising that the conversation's longer than the length of the game. So if anyone's still here and you listen to this conversation and you still, you didn't play the game, I don't think that this conversation would ruin the experience. I think that you, should give it a try yourself, see how you feel in some of these wish situations. There's a bunch that we didn't talk about that are like pretty difficult choices. So, still go check that out. And, speaking of things to check out, check in the show notes for links to the work that Flora is doing. Epilogue Gaming for written word, Left Behind Game Club for spoken word. and then other artistic pursuits such as poetry and music and a lot of stuff that Flora is doing. So in the show notes, you'll find that. If you're here at the end, as always, you are my hero, and tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
You ever notice how some games don't need 100 hours to leave a mark?
Absolutely. I'm Michael.
And I'm Marcus. We're the host of Tiny Game Chronicles, a podcast that celebrates games that are small in scope, but huge in heart.
Every other week, we dive into games that you can finish in a few hours, but think about for days after.
We've been exploring these hidden gems, and every time it feels like uncovering something extraordinary.
So whether you're short on time or just love discovering new worlds, join us.
Listen to Tiny Game Chronicles on your favorite podcast app, or catch us on YouTube.
Tiny Game Chronicles, where every other week we discuss games that are quick plays,
but epic journeys.
Welcome to No Small Games, the indie gaming recap and review podcast. I'm Kate, also known as Cater Blossom.
And I'm Emily. You might also know me online as The Specific Egg.
And we met streaming and playing video games on Twitch.
At No Small Games, we combine our favorite genres to experience everything the indie game world has to offer and share it with all of you. We believe there are no small games, only small game studios.
Each episode, we'll choose one indie game that we each played separately and discuss our playthrough experience together.
The good, the bad, and our most memorable moments. We'll follow our recap with a review and announcement of which indie game will be featured on our next episode.
We invite you to play each game along with us and would love to hear from you about your playthrough experience.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, Emily.
I hope that No Small Games brings everyone some big fun.